because it's such a gimme. This is as big as a gimme as being like, I want a ceasefire in Gaza. Just saying those fucking words. And I'm willing to stop Israel from getting weapons to get this ceasefire in Gaza. And the Democrats couldn't be bothered to make that fucking simple statement. And they lost the election. Babaannemin kine benziyor. Evet. Yok, hayır, tercih etmiyorum. I cannot understand
the U.S.
how insane they are. And I also especially do not understand why so many Democrats, like visible Democrats on Twitter, Democratic Party supporters rather, are going along with this like false narrative. They're fantasizing about like Kamala Harris being a great peacekeeper somehow. It is obvious to me that Democrats do not want to be anti-war at a time when there is tremendous resentment against war, even by fucking Trump's own base.
A good article about this because they're talking about making a comparison to Reagan's invasion of Grenada well before you were born. Reagan's invasion of Grenada, and it was not sanctioned. It was quick, very few casualties, if any, and didn't cost much. This will cost a tremendous amount of money. And are we thinking that Congress is actually going to engage in an appropriation to make this happen?
I think you bring up such an important point that I just want to add to real quickly, which is Democrats right now can literally put aside what they feel about Iran and whether Iran, and no one is here justifying or defending Iran's actions, but they can at least stand up for the rule of law in this country and say the president cannot start a war without the approval of Congress, and laser focus the conversation on saying do not start a war without the approval of Congress. And yet they seem to have completely abandoned that principle and say, well, he should...
All of Congress has abandoned that principle for decades.
Right, but we're talking about the politics of what the Democratic leadership should be doing, instead of Americans looking at Tucker Carlson skewering Ted Cruz or Steve Bannon and saying, wow, I can't believe these are the people who are saying, hey, let's have a minute, let's have this conversation. That should be coming out of the senior leadership of the Democratic Party, front and center, say,
hey, I can't say this about Steve Bannon, but Tucker Carlson isn't just talking about congressional approval for war. If you think that the reason why he's gaining tremendous popularity off of this is simply because he just wants the normal process to take place, you've missed it. You've missed the actual point that he's making, which is, why are we going to war with Iran at all? What are you saying? Why are we getting dog-walked by our special client state? That's the reason why people love the Tucker Carlson interview, because these are the kinds of conversations that never take place even in the media, and certainly don't take place, at least in public, with political figures. This is why Hakeem Jeffries calls Iran a sworn enemy, and he says Israel has a right to defend itself from Iranian aggression. And even though Israel attacked them first, he's a bought and paid for hack. It's true. What's wrong with Iran's actions? They're defending themselves against a genocidal state? No, 100%. I think it's cowardly for American politicians to not be like, dude, what are we talking about? Israel is a fucking foreign state that struck another foreign state, a massive foreign nation state. What do you mean? Like, they just have to eat it? Like, what are you talking about? That's not how that works. Israel did a genocide after its own captive population that it is a belligerent occupier of had a prison rebellion. After 75 years at the time of ruthless oppression, why would you expect any country to not respond or retaliate when met with so much military force? What good are fucking nation states if it's not to protect its own citizens, protect its own way of existence? That's the whole purpose.
We can talk about Iran, but this president cannot drop a 30,000-pound bomb on a country, lead us into a war, drag the entire region into it without the approval of the American Congress.
And it's message discipline. No kings, right?
Yeah.
No kings. Can't do this without us. You need Congress
I like no oligarchs more than I like no kings. I think the Democratic Party keeps getting served issues we can win on a silver platter and just kind of turning them away. If we were staunchly anti-war, boom, skyrocketing popularity. If we really, really took it to the oligarchy, skyrocketing popularity.
But the problem is they're not anti-war and they're not anti-oligarchy, and that's the problem that we have with the Democratic Party.
And then they're like, why won't your generation vote for us? Well,
Bernie had thousands of people in deep red South Texas at a rally last night, though.
All right, guys, we're going to have to...
Okay, Cam. Okay, Cam. Friend of the show, Cameron Kasky, who also has a show now with Tim Miller, who I don't really like too much, but it is what it is. At the Bulwark. Cameron on this panel is like the inverse of this meme. Okay, so there's a 56-year-old woman here. Oh, yeah, it's the opposite. Yeah.
Attack on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. This morning, we're getting a look at some of the damage done over the weekend. Aerial images you see there showing impact on the surface. U.S. forces around the region and authorities at home are on alert for potential retaliation from Iran, warning its military will decide the timing, nature, and scale of its response. The U.S. has about 40,000 forces in the region, spread out among about 20 sites. We have complete team coverage, beginning with new details about the 36-hour mission of the U.S. B-2 stealth bombers that attacked Iran on Saturday. Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raddatz starts us off. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, Robin. President Trump called the mission a tremendous success, a mission carried out with maximum stealth. This morning, we're getting our first look at that extraordinary attack on 3
adversarial media, by the way, supposedly adversarial media to Donald Trump, for the record. When it comes down to doing defense for the military, doing hashtag ads for the military and our military might, is so crazy how much they fucking glaze Trump and glaze the fucking military's war crimes. Like, what they were talking about with this strike was a direct violation of numerous rules, okay? You cannot strike nuclear facilities. You can, like, America is not allowed to strike nuclear facilities at all, let alone do it to a fucking foreign nation that is not in war with. Out of nowhere, at the behest of another foreign nation that is doing an ethnic cleansing campaign that we're giving all of our fucking weapons to.
Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend. This fireball in the night sky. Explosions heard in the distance at Iran's Isfahan nuclear facility. Part of the barrage known as Operation Midnight Hammer that included the largest strike by B-2 stealth bombers in history.
This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called.
The operation carried out in complete secrecy, beginning at 12:01 a.m. Saturday morning. About a dozen B-2 bombers taking flight from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Around half of them heading west towards Guam, those with trackable movements. This was a decoy. Another 7, those with transponders turned off and minimal radio communications, launching a short time later, heading towards Iran. The 18-hour flight to Iran, including mid-air refueling and in-air support.
The B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications.
Approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Time Saturday, a U.S. submarine launching 24 Tomahawk land cruise missiles at key service infrastructure targets for nuclear facility Isfahan. By 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time, the 25-minute mission inside Iran's airspace activating. U.S. fighter jets sweeping in to protect the B-2s from possible enemy missiles and warplanes. The B-2s dropping 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrator weapons.
I think it's fucking insane that this anchor is salivating while talking about a direct war crime. Like, this is, I can't stress this enough. This is just a straightforward crime of war. Okay? It is wild that Americans are like, hell yeah, brother. You are not allowed to do no one is supposed to be doing this. For obvious reasons, there are severe consequences for this, for the civilian population. If you were to strike a nuclear facility, there's potential radiation contamination. There's radiation poisoning that could take place immediately for the civilian population near the fucking nuclear facilities. Nuclear facilities are also powering the energy grid. These ones weren't. But then, it is quite loud. It is illegal. This is not... Trump says Israel and Iran agreed to a ceasefire that will start in 6 hours. Okay, we'll see. That makes sense as to why Israel was striking super hard. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire upon the 24th hour. Wait, what? An official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. He said, good game, guys. Well played. He said, GGWP. Fox News is live with J.D. Vance explaining the ceasefire.
Of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
I want to get to the obliterated part in just a minute, but I just want to read this fully so I get the context here. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point, the ceasefire for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world. He seems confident that this is all coming together.
That's right.
And when you left the White House, were you thinking this was all gelling here?
When I left the White House, I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that. I mean, look, he's been working the phones constantly. Frankly, before the 12-day war started, but certainly over the past 12 days, the president's been extremely clear about America's national objective here. It is to create a world where Iran cannot build a nuclear weapon. We, of course, destroyed the nuclear program that they had, and the president told the entire team, we're going to work to make sure that they don't try to rebuild that nuclear capability in the future. And it's, look, this is a great thing. For Israel, think about this. They've accomplished an important military objective. They've helped us destroy the Iranian nuclear program. They've also destroyed the conventional missile capability of Iran that threatened the country of Israel. For the Iranians, I think this is a new opportunity to actually pursue the path of peace. As I said yesterday, what the Iranians have showed through their support of terror networks,
I think they kicked the can down the road.
Failed effort to build a nuclear weapon is that they're just not very good.
I do not think Israel, by the way, ironically enough, America didn't have to fucking respond at all to this. They could have just done this without trying to blow up the Iranian nuclear facility. Make no mistake. They could have also stopped Israel from even fighting in Iran at all. They accomplished nothing except for more death for no fucking reason, created panic, and basically Israel ate a bunch of missiles for the first time ever in its fucking 77-year history that was actually consequential. Having said that, however, I do think that Israel's ambitions for destabilizing Iran have not gone away. That is still their ultimate goal. So we shall see how they behave going forward.
And the Israelis and the Iranians have been shooting at each other. I think there's some recognition that that might continue for another few hours. And tomorrow really is a new day. The end of the 12-day war, the end of the Iranian nuclear program. And I really do believe the beginning of something very big for peace in the Middle East.
So you said totally obliterated. The president has said totally obliterated the Iran nuclear program.
Yeah.
Do you know for sure where all the highly enriched uranium is?
Well, Brett, I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons-grade level, and can they convert that fuel to a nuclear weapon? And we know, based on the success of our mission, of course, the leadership of the president, but the incredible skill of our military, that the two mission objectives are completely successful. We know that they cannot build a nuclear weapon. Now, you asked about the highly enriched uranium.
Yeah, like 900 pounds of it.
But what we know, Brett, is that uranium is something that exists in very large supply. Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon. I think this is an important point, Brett, because so many of the folks who have focused on the highly enriched uranium,
60%.
The main focus, Brett, has been to destroy their enrichment capacity, because we don't want that 60% uranium to become 90% uranium. That's the real concern, and that's what was so successful about our mission.
So after all this, if the Iranian government survives as is, what's to stop it from rebuilding over time if they in fact moved the 60% highly enriched uranium? You know, that's the concern.
No, the big concern, Brett, and this is again what we destroyed, is their ability to enrich uranium. If they have 60% enriched uranium, but they don't have the ability to enrich it to 90%, and further, they don't have the ability to convert that to a nuclear weapon, that is mission success. That is the obliteration of their nuclear program, which is why the president, I think, rightly is using that term. But here's the question. If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again. Our hope is that the lesson that the Iranians have learned here is, look, we can fly a bunker buster bomb from Missouri to Iran completely undetected without landing once on the ground, and we can destroy whatever nuclear capacity
Everyone
you build
knows
up.
this.
I think
What do
that
you
lesson
mean?
is what's going to teach them not to rebuild their nuclear capacity.
Yesterday, were you speaking on the president's behalf when you said he was not interested in regime change?
Well, Brett, what I've said is the American military, that is not our mission as regime.
They did this in 2002. They did this in Afghanistan. It was like, what? When was it? The longest running bombing mission was conducted by the same fucking plane 20 years ago.
Again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MIGA.
Well, I think what the president is saying very clearly, Brett, is if the Iranian people want to do something about their own leadership, that's up to the Iranian people. What the American national security
interest
here
Of course, Iran
is very
agreed to a
simple.
ceasefire. They can carry on their nuke program in peace now. Dude, if they don't fucking make nukes, they're so dumb. And I do suspect that they don't, so we'll see. But I could totally see them not doing nukes.
Artificial intelligence, hardware, they want to sort of come into the new economy, and that was impossible when you had Iran that was, as the president said, acting like a bully across the Middle East. We really think that if the Iranians are smart about the path forward,
Iran was acting like a bully.
dawn of an economic age of prosperity, of course, for our Gulf Arab allies, for us, for the Israelis, for everybody. but it's going to require the Iranians play it smart from here.
The president called it very weak, the Iran missile firing on the U.S. base in Qatar, Al Udeid. Was it a face-saving move? How do you get from that, firing missiles at a U.S. base, to a ceasefire, as he details in this Truth Social?
Well, as the president said, they actually gave us some warning here. And we think they gave us some warning because they didn't want to kill Americans and they didn't want to escalate. There's definitely some symbolism to this, Brett. If you look at the Iranian attack, it was 14 missiles that they telegraphed ahead of time. We dropped 14 bunker buster bombs. As the president told me earlier, our missiles, our bombs were a little bit bigger than their bombs. Our bombs actually accomplished the...
I can't believe it. He did it again. Donald Trump did it again. He fucking broke something for no reason and then let chaos unfold for an extended period of time, only to turn around and be like, look at how big of a savior I am. Does this man ever do anything that is not within the Trump playbook, where he just goes in, breaks something, and then it says he's going to continue breaking it, and then stops the further breaking process? Half of the shit's broken already, and goes, look how fucking amazing I am. I just stopped. I could have broken way more. This is insane. He did it. He did the exact same thing on everything, from tariffs to any number of different things that he says he's going to do. It's always a spectacular failure, and the people are basically begging him not to do it from the start, only to turn around and be like, well, deportations. That's another one. People are like, dude, if you do these deportations, like, you're going to fucking disrupt key sectors of business. Like, there is a lot of migrant workers in a lot of these places. Like, this is a tremendous instability. He's like, nope, we're doing it. And then he goes, actually, you know what? No more are we doing deportation for the good immigrants. They're working in the farms. Then why did you do it to begin with? It's everything from the wall to immigration to war.
Regime, because it's evil and horrible and has done...
Firing government employees only to rehire them instantly. It's only been 5 months, man. It's only been 5 fucking months since this asshole came into power. And he's basically done this. He's done this like 100 different times. It's so
classified
stupid.
Documents. They trust the president to do a good job. But importantly, Brett, I think he's threaded the needle quite well here. We had a very particular objective. It was profound and difficult to accomplish.
Do you think
the elimination of the Iranian nuclear program.
Do you think they were close?
And I think the president successfully did that. You're asking, were the Iranians close to a nuclear weapon? Brett, they were very close to a nuclear weapon. And what I encourage my fellow Americans to think about here is that a week ago, the Iranians were quite close to achieving a nuclear weapon. Now they cannot build a nuclear weapon. That is the biggest testament to the president's leadership and to the success of our mission. In 1 week, without, thank God so far, not losing a single American casualty, we have taken what was a threatening nuclear program that could have destabilized the entire world.
I'm thinking about it.
Now
Has
that
there
program
been a
is gone.
single
We did it
real
through
problem that
President
this man has
leadership
solved?
And also some very, very competent work from our troops.
Has there been a single real
You're
problem?
going to do an interview, and you get a Truth Social seconds.
Republicans just
You have
invent
some sense
shit
of it, but it's pretty
hysterically
detailed, where
and then
you are being asked
take
about something the
initiative
president has just
to
pointed out.
quote unquote
administration,
fix
Brett, it happens
the
quite a bit,
problem that
actually,
doesn't
but
even exist,
We knew this was coming.
that they
The
hallucinated.
draft, it was
And in the
interesting.
process
I
of
just
quote
read the
unquote
draft
fixing
about
this
2
problem
minutes
that didn't
before
even
we went on
exist,
the air.
they create
It was
a
little
fuck
bit
ton more
different than what the
chaos
president had
and a
showed
fuck
me
ton
a
more
couple hours
problems,
ago, but
only
again,
to
I knew
then
that he was
have the
working on
population
those as
begging
on
to
the way
stop.
over here. So I knew exactly
And
what
then
we
they
were
do
gonna
actually end up stopping, and then they're like, come on, we're the savior.
He's always working.
We
He
are
doesn't
your
say, you know, the
salvation.
vice
We did
president's
it.
gonna do an interview, so I'm going to stop doing anything. He says, you know, we're going to do the American people's business. The vice president knows what I'm trying to accomplish, and if I get it done, great, because we're going to talk about it and celebrate it, because it is a thing to celebrate. I can't emphasize this enough, Brett.
COVID-19 vaccines were created on Trump's watch. Yeah, that's it. That's his signature accomplishment. That and the stimmy checks. Amazing.
Here's some other headlines tonight. Falling oil prices sent stocks up. The Dow surged 375. The S&P 500 finished ahead 57. The Nasdaq jumped 184. First major heat wave of the summer is hitting much of the nation. Temperatures soaring 10 to 20 degrees above average for more than 200 million Americans. Highs in the 90s, even creeping into the low 100s. The prosecution in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial expected to conclude its case tomorrow. Today, the jury viewed additional video recordings of the sex marathons that have played a prominent role in the case. Prosecutors have cited the drug-fueled multi-day events as evidence of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy charges. The U.S. Supreme Court.
I need everyone to understand something. If this ceasefire holds, and I need you to understand this. This did not have to happen at all. I cannot think of a dumber fucking way that this could have gone. Like, no, Tehran is being hit right now because Israel oftentimes does one major barrage before they have to implement. Israel always goes all out on the last day of the ceasefire. They do that with Lebanon. They did that on the numerous short-term ceasefires in Gaza. I don't know if there's Iranian confirmation on the ceasefires yet, so I don't even know what that fucking means. But Israel usually will go all out in their last barrage of missiles
that took part in Saturday's U.S. strikes on Iran. Congressman, really appreciate your time. Just to start with the breaking news, what is your understanding of what the president just announced? Has the House conference been briefed on this ceasefire?
Well, no, we haven't. I just arrived back from our district and Whiteman Air Force Base, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But look, Phil, this is what success.
CNN said Iran did not accept it. We don't know yet. Dude, first of all, I told you, Iran is the fucking chillest. Ironically enough, Iran is restrained to a fault. So it would not shock me at all if they said yes to this ceasefire. I told you this before. Iran is a glutton for fucking punishment, dude. Are you kidding me? They love it. They love getting fucking whipped around and then going, oh yeah, we don't want any more, please. Iran has not received a ceasefire proposal. Trump announces a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Oh my God. I wonder if he just told Israel this and then tweeted it out with the hopes that Iran will say yes, because he knows Iran will most likely say yes. Why is Iran being so chill? Because they are a fucking... That's a weird way to say that. No, it's not a weird way to say that. They literally will get dominated over and over again by Israel and America, as they have so far. With the hopes that, like, America will stop punishing them super hard. God, we are living in the dumbest fucking... This is the dumbest order of events, only to be even dumber tomorrow. That is a fucking guarantee. But yeah, Iran said yes. Update. Iranian sources confirmed that the ceasefire with Israel has been agreed. According to one source, the truce will go into effect at 3:30 a.m. Jerusalem time. Is this not a big Iran W? They held out against nonstop strikes and did a significant amount of damage to Israel. I think it's not as bad for Iran as what could have happened. So yes, it is definitely a I think they're decently positioned on this. People that say no are not factoring in Israel's ambition here. I don't think this is over. I don't think this is over at all. And if it's actually over, it's only because Iran actually depleted the fucking Israeli air defenses, which would be a pretty solid W. Chatters are saying, this doesn't seem like it's real. It seems so sloppy. Yeah, that's the Trump administration. What do you mean? It's the motherfucking Trump administration, dude. What is your expectation from these guys? This is how they operate. This is who they are.
It was an incredibly impressive operation. We'll see if it leads to what the president and you hope for in the days and weeks ahead. Congressman Mark Alford, really appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, Phil. Take care.
And up next, we'll continue to follow the breaking news. President Trump just announced a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Says it will begin in the next 6 hours. I'll get reaction from a former Army Lieutenant General who has extensive.
Live Aid, when rock and roll took on the world. Premieres July 13th on CNN.
It can be big for peace in the Middle East.
Vice President, moments ago, talking about this breaking news, the response from Iran to the weekend attacks and President Trump's announcement of a ceasefire and how that all goes. We're going to talk about that in the future. Joining us, two experts on Iran, Kareem Sajipour, he's of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, and Norm Rule, a former CIA and Office of the Director of National Intelligence Manager for Iran. Norm, let me start with you.
Both are assets.
The ceasefire and the Truth Social, and I asked the Vice President about it. There's a healthy dose of skepticism because the Iranians don't have a great track record of meeting whatever they talk about, either publicly or privately. Is that fair?
That's more than fair.
I'm going to keep it $150. This is not as much as an Iranian victory as it is kind of a fucking major L for Israel. This is not as much of an Iranian victory, but it is a fucking ginormous L for Israel. Israel came in, wanted to actually fuck up any kind of standing that Iran might have, pushed America into it, got their shit pushed in the process, at least their air defenses, and now can't even, unless things change, and chatters, things might change. Things might change. Remember, Israel's a very dangerous, very unstable government, but this was a fucking-tacular L for Israel. Because their goal, and this is not a secret, their goal is Iran becoming a failed state. Their goal is to basically fucking erode the Iranian state capabilities and to have them never be able to send missiles that penetrate the Israeli defenses ever again. And all they got in the process was America forcibly coming into the equation. No actual military priorities were accomplished in this process, and they didn't even get to do the full prize, which is regime destabilization, complete dismantling of the regime, and turning Iran into a fucking fail state. It's crazy. Several airstrikes within the last minutes at northeastern Tehran. Is a major L for Iran, man. Iran basically declared they have zero deterrence and Israel can go again. Why wouldn't they go for assassinations on Iranian leaders next? As long as there are no troops deployed, the American public will eat it up. No, that's why I said I don't think it's a W for Iran, but it is a major L for Israel. Iran being fooled a third time? Oh, no, for sure. They got nothing and Israelis felt actual weapons on home soil. Benny's finished as it stands? I don't think so. I don't think he is. I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu is finished after this. No real announcement from Khamenei, by the way. Why would Iran agree with the ceasefire while Israel's still bombing? Every country in the region knows that when Israel is at the precipice of a ceasefire, they bomb extra hard. Weird. Axios says Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire that will begin in 6 hours. This makes no sense. No Iranian sources said anything. I'm not even kidding when I say... I'm not even kidding. I can fucking see... I don't know what Amwaj Media's... This is breaking news that will be continuously updated. Iran and Israel have agreed to a ceasefire. Morandi said it's fake. No ceasefire, fake news. Zionists are in trouble. I don't know. I think Iran will eat the fucking ceasefire at any off-ramp that Iran will get, they'll take. I think as much as I respect Syed Mohammed Morandi, I think I could see America being like, oh, it's a ceasefire, we did it, without telling Iran, knowing full well that Iran will most likely take on the ceasefire or something. I'm actually surprised. Is this successful deterrence? I mean, 12 hours for Israel to begin ceasefire, but 6 hours for Iran. This seems very strange to give Israel 6 hours of unrestrained and unopposed attacks on Iran. Yes. It could be another trick from the Trump administration. Don't know why the Iranian government would agree to such a fucking idiotic proposal. Trump's claim for a ceasefire agreement between the Zionist regime and Iran. Donald Trump claimed a ceasefire agreement to end the war between the Zionist regime and Iran. Meanwhile, CNN reported citing a senior Iranian official that Tehran had not received any ceasefire proposals. A senior Iranian official told CNN that Iran will continue to fight until a lasting peace is achieved and considers Israeli and American statements to be a deception to justify attacks on Iranian interests. The official said at this very moment the enemy is attacking Iran and Iran is on the verge of escalating its retaliatory attacks and is not listening to the lies of its enemies. The funny thing about misdirection as a war tactic is that you can only credibly use it once before it's nullified. Trump did that with the initial Israel attacks on Iran, but now they've painted themselves as untrustworthy in perpetuity over it. No, but it doesn't matter. When you're the most powerful fucking state, when you're the most powerful state, it doesn't matter. People are desperate to believe you. You know what I mean? Let's see what Al Jazeera is saying.
That I don't want to be too hopeful is that we see the continuation of Israeli strikes, whether or not this social media post is going to be translated into real, let's say, peace or real suspension of the strikings between the two sides remains to be really seen. We have to keep in mind that there are several points in this regard. First, we have to wait to see whether Iran is going to accept that proposal. Second, we are not sure if Israelis are going to accept that proposal because of the very fact that we see the continuation. Also, by nature, this is not a fair proposal. You just give some time for one of these sides to continue their strikes, ask the other to keep silent, and go on with just being silent and then receiving more and more attacks targeting your territories. That doesn't seem fair, and of course this is going to be something that should be taken into consideration when it comes to Iran's calculations. And at the time being, Iran is trying to use the most possible amount of strategic precision when it comes to the next steps down the road. And also there is one important point that also, Cyril, we have to keep in mind. The Iranians are saying that they're going to continue to strike back as long as the Israeli strikes continue. The reality on the ground is far from that point that we can see a ceasefire at the time being, since they are continuing. And also, it was the Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a couple of days ago, coming out to say that Iran is not going to accept any imposed peace. If this recent statement by US President is going to be considered as an imposed peace, obviously based upon the previous statements, we can say that Iran may not accept it. But still, we don't have any official statement. We don't have any official...
What if this is a way to be like, oh, Iran, like, just lie and say Iran told us that we accepted a ceasefire only to continue bombing Israel, so we have to actually be the fucking peacekeepers in the region and attack Iran, maybe. I don't know. I don't know anymore. This is not a normal state. America, I'm saying this with 100% sincerity. I know this is probably shocking for some people to hear, because your expectation is that, like, the United States of America is supposed to be this, like, honest actor here. But I can't trust America's statements. I definitely can't trust Israel. And I 100%, in this process at least, trust the Iranian side and their assessment of the situation, or what they are saying, a lot more than I do America. They're not the ones who were like, oh, let's do a negotiation, and then fucking attacked. I mean, we're doing a war, but it wasn't a war before Israel made it a war. What do you mean? You can't say we're doing a war.
Donald Trump says
it literally wasn't a war before Israel decided it is supposed to be a war. Breaking, CNN citing an Iranian official, Tehran has not received any proposal for a ceasefire. The statements of Israel and the United States are a trick to justify attacks on Iranian interests, and at this moment, the enemy is attacking Iran. I will say, Israel does actually increase the intensity of the strikes. right before, and they have increased the intensity of the strikes today. So right before a ceasefire happens, Israel notoriously will blow up way more than they normally do. Yet another reason why you should not fucking trust them ever. I don't know anymore. I don't fucking know anymore. I don't know. An incredibly stupid spectacle. Iran's semi-official mayor's new agency casting doubt on Trump, alleging of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, preceding the publishing of the text of his announcement with the headline, "Liar Trump's imaginary plan to establish a ceasefire." Iran says, Iran issues evacuation warning for Tel Aviv residents. Okay. That means that they're still striking Israel. Iran has issued an evacuation warning for the residents of Israel's Ramat Gan district near Tel Aviv. The move comes shortly after an Israeli military spokesman issued a similar warning to the residents of an area in Iranian capital Tehran, saying the army would be launching an attack. Bro, what the fuck is happening? I don't know anymore. What? I'm sorry, this is the fucking stupidest. What? Scroll down, keep reading. Why are you saying scroll down? Why? There's nothing else. It's like older shit. There are no W's for Iran as long as the U.S. is allowed to do shock and awe air superiority warfare. U.S. will have favorable trades when it comes to exchanging bombs. It will only escalate. They normalize killing Iranian generals and calling it a special operation as if it's not escalating a war. Why wouldn't U.S./Israel push it further in a month? They will. I think they will. That's why I'm saying it's not a W for Iran at all. People who say this is a major W for Iran are coping. Iran is weak. Like, in 2020, when Donald Trump executed Qasem Soleimani, Iran was still weak, and it didn't show any fucking significant retaliatory measures to make any of the surrounding nations that played a role in this actually suffer repercussions for doing such a severe escalation of violence, for withstanding such a severe escalation of violence from America. Israel flew into Iran amidst negotiations and assassinated multiple IRGC commanders, basically fucking brought fresh faces into the IRGC. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Tehran's attack on Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar came in response to the U.S. aggression. He said Iran will be ready to respond again in case of further action by the U.S., according to a statement posted by the Foreign Ministry's account on Telegram, that this is meaningless. Okay, yeah, they'll do another symbolic fucking
Trump's
retaliation.
word with a grain of salt when he's like, total victory. We don't know if it's total victory yet.
Yeah, and to be clear, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but like the reason why I'm saying I'm still trying to think through how to think about, like, there's just a lot of detail, plus decades of failed negotiations or pulling out or stringing along of these particular players and actors in this particular region.
Here's my insane conspiracy hour. Are you ready for this? Wee woo, insane conspiracy alert. Let's say Mossad has actually deeply penetrated the IRGC, and they assassinated the top level leadership, the highest level of loyalty, and actually all these other fucking people that are in the IRGC that are now taking their places are all also pro-Israel people, and then they facilitate a military coup. Obviously, this is unlikely, but I'm saying maybe that's what they're going to do. Who knows? That's why they killed all the high-level IRGC people.
Hours, I think, after she posted on
that's my conspiracy.
On X, it feels like a complete bait and switch.
I don't believe this, by the way.
The neocons, warmongers,
I don't know. I'm just shooting
complex.
the shit. Everything is so fucking insane. So, brother, look at what Mossad did with Eli Cohen in Syria. I wouldn't be surprised. It just feels like after Iran stops Israel will assassinate Ayatollah. I just feel like could that happen? I mean, they would have. I feel like they would have assassinated Ayatollah right now. Like this was their opportunity. I genuinely believe that when Israel started this, they thought they could bring America fully. And I think they thought they could withstand. I think they thought they could withstand Iranian counters better than they actually did. So they failed on that front, which actually limited the amount of time that they had to conduct military campaigns. They successfully brought the United States into the conversation, but not beyond the initial point of escalation, especially because Iran did not eat the bait and then severely escalate and punish America or even close the Strait of Hormuz. So now there's this supposedly quote-unquote fake ceasefire. Israel did take an L on two fronts. It took an L because it wanted to do the final final solution to Iran, destabilize the Iranian government, destroy it as a state, and it failed to do so. It failed to bring America in to be able to do this final ambition. How is it fake? Well, the Iranian side fucking says that it's not real. Israel is bombing Tehran. Iran is saying that they're going to bomb Tel Aviv any moment now. Doesn't seem like a very good ceasefire proposal. I still think it's probably real, but I don't know. I think you're wrong. Israel predicted they would lose about 4,000 to 5,000 people in a war with Iran, and they only lost about 6. Are you fucking insane? You think the Israeli government was willing to kill 5,000 Jews in Israel so they could bomb fucking Iranian military positions? Do you know how much of a destabilizing force that would be for Israeli society? Israel would be over. They might as well end the government right then and there. Yeah, what they say and what they actually believe is crazy. Brother, who would you ever be able to prove to? Who would you ever be able to prove to that like Tel Aviv is the safest place on the planet for Jews ever again? If Israel's actions amounted to 5,000 Jews dying in the process because they literally decided that they wanted to go to war with Iran, and then Iran just pummeled their fucking pummeled the residential buildings and pummeled the fucking neighborhoods and even the bunkers and shit like that, it would be over. That the Israeli project is done. America would also join I think America would probably join the fight the moment that like more than 25 elderly Jewish people died. They also failed at keeping the war going on for longer, so attention come back to Gaza to some extent, if this report is true. 50 civilians seeking aid were massacred earlier today, as in many other days, but it got negligible media coverage. Usually this would be on the front page of Haaretz, but everything is full of Iran now, and I'm sure this is true to an extent internationally. It absolutely is. No one is even remotely talking about Gaza. I have here, but I have yet to see any fucking serious coverage being talked about in Gaza. The one senator, much props, is given here, is Chris Van Hollen. Chris Van Hollen tweeted yesterday, released a statement saying 400 plus Palestinians were slaughtered on their way to receive aid, to get aid, while since the beginning of Israel's strikes on Iran. Very little attention has been given to Israel's conduct in Gaza. What is this? No, this is the same article that we saw. This is the only article that we've seen that confirms. Yeah, did Iran actually agree to silently absorb Israeli fire for 12 hours straight? What a strange agreement. I don't think it's fucking real. Kyle calls it a fake ceasefire. Okay, well, Kyle Kalinske is even less of a direct party I would rather listen to Yashar than Kyle Kalinske on this. I'm not even kidding when I say this. Like, I love Kyle, but what the fuck does he know about what's going on internally in Iran? At least Yashar has like relatives and shit and can sometimes break news Iran related. Taking shots at Kyle because he cooked his dumbass uncle? No. No, I love Kyle. And the only reason why I couldn't watch Kyle destroy Uncle Chunk Weigert is because I couldn't stand to watch him get eviscerated. Kyle's just speculating like you, bro. Relax. Yo, that's what I'm saying. Guys, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I love Kyle. And I respect Kyle's analysis. But what the fuck does he know? He knows just as little as I do about whether or not this ceasefire is real. I'm looking for a fucking primary source here, okay? I'm looking for, like, even the Iranian news agencies are not a primary source in this situation. I need the foreign minister to say something, or I need the fucking Ayatollah's account to tweet something. like this right here, Trump announced that Iran will start the ceasefire first upon the 12th hour, and Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, there will be an official end to the war. This is primarily what is making me very skeptical of this news. Who has ever heard of a ceasefire agreement where one side agrees to stop firing, but the other side is explicitly allowed to keep attacking for another 6 hours? And as well, what does it mean that there's an official end to the war 12 hours after the ceasefire? There was no official war declaration. This is an invention of Trump's brain where countries officially declare war on each other. Like, none of this makes sense. What is going on? God damn it, this government is so fucking stupid. I'm sorry. We have shred every single, like, I don't want to, at the risk of sounding like a liberal, I do want to say there are some rules and some norms that are important to abide by so that we can make sense of events that are unfolding, so that we can have a sense of stability. Okay? This is one of those things where, like, the president shouldn't be irresponsibly tweeting out the end to a fucking a 12-day conflict without every party agreeing to it. Like, this should be an official communique. And it makes it really hard to read Trump's Truth Social post, not even Twitter post, but his Truth Social post as official communiques of the government. Like, he's the last person. Al-Arabiya says, an Iranian official confirms an agreement has been reached to stop the war between Iran and Israel. Like, what is, this is the only account. I mean, this seems more official, but, like, does it mean that it's the 12-hour, 6-hour deal? You giving Trump props or still hating? Why would I give him props for anything? Are you fucking stupid? What is their prop? If Trump's quote-unquote ceasefire is real, okay, what was accomplished? What the fuck was accomplished here? They were in the midst of a negotiation. Israel struck amidst the negotiation and then got fucking a bunch of city blocks reduced to rubble in retaliation in Israel as well. 12 days of complete halt to any economic activity for Tel Aviv and for Israel in general. They had their fucking their energy grid attacked. Iran didn't have nukes anyway. We don't even know if they, like, actually successfully hit Fordow, which is deep underground, but it doesn't even matter because the enriched uranium wasn't in Fordow. Iran had revealed that far before America came in and struck Fordow. So what happened? Donate to denims, everyone. Okay. Also, of course, note with the Nobel Peace Prize talk, starting a war right now was a choice by Netanyahu that Trump enabled. He then set a risky new precedent of direct U.S. attacks on Iran, which will be called upon in the future, and dramatically hardened sentiments in Tehran. We're about to see an avalanche of this spin. Note that U.S. and Iranian officials and experts are clear. Iran's nuclear program faced limited damage, which means the root of the current crisis is yet to be tackled. Doing so peacefully was always hard. This war likely made it harder. I don't understand this at all, man. Iranian state-affiliated media. Yeah, that's Mer News, which is... What is happening? And now the Israel Defense Forces have released 2 more evacuation orders for both Mehran and District 6 in northern Tehran. And Iran said they're going to retaliate and hit Tel Aviv. You're the news guy? Brother, I'm the news guy, but the news is insane. For the record, this does not mean that there is no ceasefire, for the record. I just need you to understand. Breaking, New York Times, Israeli military spokesman declines to comment on Trump's ceasefire statement. What? We trust Iran media now? Wait, what? Yes. Yes. There are different, like FARS, I think is like what, the highest level. Like the Iranian state media is the most reliable as far as like official communiques, which resembles official communiques. Mer is semi reliable. It's a state affiliated outlet. Okay. And the highest degree of reliability is directly coming from the Ayatollah account or another official like the foreign minister or something like that. This does make me think that there may be something happening, but that Trump jumped the gun or they're refusing to comment because they have no idea what's going on. Iran's New York mission declined to comment to France 24 when asked if they have received the ceasefire proposal from the U.S., whether or not Tehran has accepted it. This was all just war propaganda for Israel. J.D. Vance already calling it the 12-day war now, and they're going to say this was the war that Israel obliterated Iran's nukes. It was never about nukes. That doesn't mean anything. What the American government says about how fucking successful this was means nothing. It's fucking lower than dirt. Nobody trusts America. They can try and pump this to the dumbest fucking morons, but there's already enough partisan enmity inside of the United States of America, especially because Trump mishandles shit like this all the fucking time, that this means that the dumbest NPCs that you know will go, dude, Trump did a 12-day nuclear agreement with fucking Israel. He's your president. He's the GOAT. That's it. No one other than the dumbest people in America will respond to this positively, unless it's a real ceasefire, in which case there might be some people that will eat that propaganda. But I don't know. I don't know what is going on. According to Reuters, Qatar's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Mohammed bin Al Thani secured Iran's agreement to a U.S. ceasefire proposal during a phone call recently with Tehran. I mean, that's Ocean Defender. I don't know. Trump may be claiming a ceasefire, but he supported an Israeli assault on Iran in the middle of diplomacy. If this truce is real, will Israel now halt its assassinations and sabotage? None of its strategic goals were achieved. A ceasefire would now mark Israeli failure. I don't know what is going on. I don't know what's happening. I'm telling you, I don't know what's happening. There is no way to know what's happening because this is Trump is so insane that it is impossible to know what is happening. Okay? But if you think Israel striking Iran means that a ceasefire is not happening, that's not the case. Israel always strikes way harder before, if anything, it's further proof that a ceasefire might be happening, because Israel strikes way harder when a ceasefire is imminent. I don't know the details of the ceasefire, however, because the idea that like there's going to be a 6-hour period where Israel can strike without ever getting struck back is insane to me. I don't know why Iran would ever agree to such a decision. But yeah, Israel always does this. They did it in Lebanon. This is their modus operandi. This is the way they operate. Check Al Jazeera. It's breaking news.
the equation for Israel. But I agree with a lot of observers and analysts that believe that Israel's intentions were much greater than simply knocking out Iran's
That is true.
nuclear program. It was about.
If this ceasefire holds, if this is like a real ceasefire, it's a major fucking L to Israel, but it's also still a significant L to Iran. And I don't think Israel will stop in its ambitions of destabilizing Iran. But they didn't achieve it in this 12-day war. That was their goal. That's the reason why they started it. It had nothing to do with the fucking nukes or anything like that.
Hegemony in the region, and it sees the last kind of remaining obstacle to that as, Iran and its axis of resistance in the region. So I think it was dead set on changing that equation inside of Iran. It obviously hasn't accomplished that. Will it be satisfied with a serious degradation of Iran's nuclear program? Maybe that's enough. Maybe Netanyahu has changed his fortunes within the Israeli political calculus as a result of this, as a result of getting the Americans on board to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Maybe that's enough of a win where all sides feel a sense of accomplishment.
This is Al Jazeera, live from Doha. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom with extended coverage of the latest escalation in the Middle East. In the last hour, President Donald Trump has announced what he says is a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Iran. He's congratulated both countries for agreeing to a complete and total end to hostilities. He says the ceasefire will take effect in stages over 24 hours. Neither Israel nor Iran have confirmed that they've agreed to such a ceasefire. This is what President Trump wrote. Congratulations, everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions. For 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially,
What does that mean?
Ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire.
What does that
And
mean?
upon the 24th hour,
What does
an
any
official
of
end
this
to the 12-day
mean,
war will be
dude?
saluted by the world.
Like, does this
During each
imply that
ceasefire, the
Trump
other
is
sides will
also...
remain peaceful and respectful.
Does this mean that Trump is also giving credence to the Iranian operations on Israel? Like, he's like, yeah, Iran has got to conduct some operations in Israel as well. Like, what does that mean?
To end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years
What
and
is
destroyed
happening?
the entire Middle East, but it didn't. We'll be unpacking the latest developments shortly with our correspondents in Amman, Tehran, and Washington, D.C. Let's go live now to Heidi Jo Castro. She joins us from Washington, D.C. So, Heidi, the speed with which all this is developing is pretty remarkable. You know, in the past couple of days, you've had Donald Trump first suggesting that regime change might be possible in Iran.
What is
now,
happening?
in this post, he's saying, God bless Iran. All of this happening so quickly. What else have you been hearing?
That's right, and we're getting a little more reporting from the news agency Reuters, which says that Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance had discussed the ceasefire with the Emir of Qatar shortly after Iran had launched those airstrikes against the U.S. airbase there, and that they were informing the Qataris that Israel at that point had agreed to the ceasefire and were asking the Qataris for help to then persuade Iran to also agree. Reuters also reporting that Qatar's prime minister was the one that secured Iran's agreement to the U.S. ceasefire proposal in a call with Iran. Those are the latest lines as far as how this ceasefire announced by the U.S. president developed. We also heard more from his vice president speaking on Fox News shortly after Trump announced the ceasefire on social media. J.D. Vance, a vice president, saying that he had seen Trump on the phone at the White House leading up to the moment that he departed the White House, that the two had been working on the terms of this deal, that it had shifted a bit in the last 2 hours, and then giving the U.S. president credit, saying for taking the deal across the finish line, and then saying that this 12-day war, as Trump now wants to coin it, is an important reset moment for the entire region. So again, of course, as we have been cautioning, we're still waiting for confirmation from Iran, from Israel, about the terms of this deal. But as announced by Trump, and if it takes effect, as he says, it indeed would be a diplomatic coup, dramatic turnaround, as you said, in just the last few days, going from Trump saying that he was open to regime change in Iran to now saying, God bless Iran. And then after this airstrike from Iran against the Air Force Base, the U.S. Air Base in Doha, all of this happening in just the last few hours, and certainly giving Trump that much sought after ceasefire as the deal maker.
Okay. Reuters Iran correspondent has confirmed it. Senior Iranian official confirms to Reuters Tehran agreeing to Qatar-mediated U.S. proposed ceasefire with Israel. So the outline is being formed here. It's like, I think Trump just got off the phone and instantly fucking locked it. Like, I think he just got off the phone and just started tweeting, okay? I'm trying to make sense of what took place just now in this like last hour, okay? And I think he just basically just threw it out there, okay? And in the process of tweeting like a fucking child, he might have just like written the wrong thing as far as like the boundaries of the ceasefire, which is why everyone was confused. Because like I think that the ceasefire is probably not giving a 6-hour window to Israel to continue striking Iran without any retaliation. That feels very weird. That doesn't make any sense. Like that's not how any of this works, right? So I don't know if that happened. Also, Israeli strikes hits Tehran despite Trump's ceasefire announcement. It's been over 40 minutes since Donald Trump announced that a ceasefire had been reached between Iran and Israel to begin in 6 hours. The Israeli military, since the announcement, issued evacuation warnings to Tehran's District 6 and 7, as well as the Mehran area, citing imminent strikes on regime infrastructure. Shortly afterward, Israeli warplanes launched multiple airstrikes across the Iranian capital, Tehran. Iran's state-affiliated Mer News reported explosions in several neighborhoods in northern and eastern Tehran, along with additional blasts in unnamed cities. In response, Iran has issued an evacuation warning for Israel's Ramat Gan district near Tel Aviv, also reported by Mer. Iran has reportedly downed another Israeli Hermes drone downed in Tehran. I'm not going to lie, this is probably one of the most insane things that I've ever had the displeasure of reporting on in real time. This is truly unique. As I said in the initial possible ceasefire implementation, it is not unique for Israel to strike and strike super hard right at the precipice of a ceasefire. As a matter of fact, this further confirms that the ceasefire is real. What doesn't make sense about the ceasefire boundaries that Trump just tweeted out unceremoniously, but very normal for Trump, is that Iran would agree to a ceasefire for in the next 6 hours, whereas Israel gets to keep bombing for an additional 6 hours. That doesn't make sense. Behind the scenes, the ceasefire was agreed upon through Qatari and American mediation between Israel and Iran. Sources familiar with the matter said, after the attack on the American base, Iran conveyed a message to the White House via Qatar that it would not carry out further attacks and that its response was over, according to a source familiar with the details. The White House responded to Iran with its own message emphasizing that it would not respond militarily to the Iranian attack and that the United States was ready to resume negotiations on the nuclear agreement. Talks then continued between the U.S. and Israel and between Qatar and Iran to agree to terms of the ceasefire and the time at which it would begin. Netanyahu has ordered ministers to not comment on the recent developments until further notice. Source Israeli Channel 12. Okay, so considering, okay, here, let's operate on the notion that this ceasefire is real, okay? Let's also further operate on the notion that the ceasefire does not have a 6-hour additional window of striking for Israel, because it's a normal ceasefire as opposed to whatever the fuck Trump tweeted out, okay? Let's say this ceasefire was implemented and it's a real ceasefire. It makes sense that Iran would say yes to it. As I told you time and time again, Iran, given how restrained its retaliation has been against Israel and certainly against the United States of America, just purely symbolic to say, like, we're still here and we have the capabilities of striking your bases. It was an off-ramp for America and it was an off-ramp for Iran, and America took that off-ramp, so it makes sense. This, however, is horrible for Israel. The reason why this is horrible for Israel is because when Israel initially implemented this operation, I don't know, Gay Lion or whatever the fuck they called it, I forget, Lion in the night sky like shooting stars. I could really use a wish right now. When they started the Operation Prosperity Lion, okay? When they did that, when they said Israel is lion, not India, okay? Operation Israel is the real lion, not India. Stop saying India is lion too, sir. When they started that, their goal wasn't to just, like, I don't know, take out the fucking nuclear facilities or some shit. Their goal was, and the reason why they started with a decapitation strike was to finally hit the big one, hit the big target, destabilize Iran, regime change in Iran. Now, their calculations might have changed in the process over the course of the past 12 days because they were not able to keep up defenses. They were not maybe able to keep up their defenses, and they didn't have the capacity to continue going, and they weren't able to bring in America in a more significant way. Okay? And therefore, they had to stand down. But ultimately, this would be a big L for Israel's goals. Because Israel did not just want to, I don't know, disrupt the nuclear negotiations. They wanted to disrupt the nuclear negotiations with an additional goal. And the goal is, it's okay to accept that you were wrong. Trump W, it's Jover, wrong. Copium, it's okay to accept that you were wrong. Wrong on what? So Israel just wanted to what? Strike Iran? That's what it is for like a couple days to get their nuts off? Like, what do you mean? Israel, from its announcements from the start, signaled that this was the final battle, the crown jewel. Okay? Chair and rope Hassan. Why don't you just tell me to kill myself? Why do you have to go through this like pussy ass route? I mean, it's not going to happen, but what do you mean chair and rope? Thoughts on 9/11? Trump 2020, baby. Some items have more value on traders, but items like a GPU will go for more on flea market. This motherfucker's been following me since 2019. What did Iran really do to Israel? It seems like not much. No, I think the fact that Iran was able to, for 12 days in a row, pummel Israel and keep Israeli society inside of bunkers is pretty significant. You have to remember, Israel's never experienced this kind of retaliation before. What they lost in the process is also super significant, which is precisely the reason why I did not say that this was a W for Iran, but it was an L for Israel. But make no mistake, the fact that Israel's currently striking Tehran with increased intensity does not mean that there is no ceasefire. It actually is further evidence that a ceasefire is imminent. Israel always strikes with extra intensity on the last couple of hours of a ceasefire process. Thank you for the 100 gifted subs, Burgles. Perhaps this could be a way to buy time and replenish Israel's Iron Dome interceptors and then relaunch the aggression later. That could be the case. And this time they could start with like a straightforward decapitation strike to push the entire region into further chaos. I don't think Israel is happy with this situation, no matter what they say. They will probably come around. and claim that they got massive W's here. The joint partnership is stronger than ever before. But I don't think they're happy with this effort at all, because their goal was to bring America. Their goal was to basically bring America into the fucking fold and take the war to Iran. Clipped and shipped. Wait, what? You're such a fucking clown. Based Zach Rar. Mocking the working class again, eh, Hassan? Trump too based. You soy losers can't handle it. Put more words in his mouth. Oh my God, all the Trump supporters are crying in the chat. Amazing. You're right, guys. Your glorious God King, he did it. He brought the world back to, I don't know, 12 days prior. Because if you recall, before Israel struck Iran, the position was Iran wasn't striking Israel and Israel wasn't striking Iran. None of the military goals were achieved in the process. They didn't get the enriched uranium. I'm so confused as to why people are celebrating this as though it's like a... I'm so confused as to why people are celebrating this as though this is like a significant W. A question, with Iran striking, can the U.S. invoke NATO like they did Iraq? I mean, they're not going to do that.
Saying is that, look, if the war ended, if this agreement was reached, Israel still reserved the right to respond and hit Iran if they felt, one, any sort of threat, but also if they saw that Iran was rearming, if they felt that Iran was rebuilding the nuclear facilities that, according to the U.S., have been obliterated, but still there has been nothing official from the Israeli government. It's worth mentioning that Netanyahu himself, along with all of his government officials, have repeatedly broken ceasefire agreements in the past. We saw this in Lebanon and we saw this in Gaza, and it's actually still ongoing in Lebanon because that agreement is still in place, though fragile. During the ceasefire in Gaza several months ago, there were continuous Israeli strikes and hundreds of people who were killed because Israel claimed that there were violations of the agreement, which gave them this green light to respond. They say the same thing about attacking what they call targets in southern Lebanon and assassinating other officials related to Hezbollah. So there are a lot of concerns about a ceasefire agreement when it comes to Israel maintaining it, because some of their conditions are so severe. Iran not rebuilding any sort of nuclear facilities, Iran not rearming, not continuing to build weapons, but still nothing official from the Israeli prime minister.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Hamda Salhoud joining us live from Amman in Jordan. Thanks so much, Hamda. Adam Clements is a U.S. foreign policy analyst and former Pentagon official. He joins us now live from Washington, D.C. Adam, thanks so much for being with us here on Al Jazeera. Let me ask you first, there have been so many developments the past few days and the past few hours.
Iran now says agreed. Trump, Israel and Iran agree to ceasefire. Iran have not received any ceasefire proposal. Israel declined to comment on ceasefire. Iran now says agreed to U.S. proposed ceasefire with Israel. All while Israel is still striking Iran, and Iran is still stating that they will strike Israel. Israel and U.S. going to strike again when they get close to the nuke, so this ceasefire is just a piece of paper to wipe your ass with? Dude, the Iran nuclear enrichment was simply a way to fucking harden their position so they can actually maintain their civilian nuclear infrastructure, okay? They were under no obligation to not enrich uranium because Trump had already destroyed the JCPOA and was already sanctioning them as though they had violated the JCPOA when they hadn't. Of course they're going to fucking enrich uranium. What are you talking about? It is a way to try to gain leverage so that you can reduce the fucking sanctions or just, end the sanctions entirely. Honestly sad seeing so many Gen Z service members cheering this on like another forever war is something we need, being cutesy and acting like this is an immediate W. A lot of them weren't born in 2003. I mean, whatever, dude. I mean, they got their hearts set out. They'll learn. They'll learn the lesson the hard way, I think. The fate of every active duty service member is to either, become the dumbest hog of all time, or to inevitably become a Hassan Abihed and a dedicated anti-war veteran. That's it. There's only two ways for the Western man. In both ways, your wife is probably having sex with Jody. In both of those pathways, there are some similarities regardless. And you either learn the lesson the hard way and change trajectory, or you learn, or you just never learn that lesson and you continue and you become a Fox News commentator. USA still blew Iran's nuclear sites. Wouldn't that be a W for Israel nonetheless? No, dude. Why the fuck would that be a W for Israel? Israel doesn't give a shit about Iran's fucking nuclear capabilities. America doesn't give a shit about Iran's nuclear capabilities. They don't have nukes. That's just a lie that they told everybody so they could justify going to war with Iran. What is happening? It's kind of interesting how quickly people will just go, yeah, these administrations that have lied in perpetuity and in broad daylight, I'm going to believe the things that they're telling me. Like, what happened? What happened to like a healthy dose of skepticism? This doesn't make any sense. If reports of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran are substantiated, expect an Iranian civil war between royalists and MEK supporters in exile. Rudy Giuliani has already fired the first shot on behalf of his MEK patrons. Yeah, the real civil war is going to be between the MEK and the royalists on who gets to be the true puppet for the inevitable Iranian regime change. Diplomat briefed on the ceasefire talks on Fox News. President Trump spoke with Qatar's emir and informed him the U.S. got Israel to agree with the ceasefire with Iran. The president asked Qatar to help persuade Iran to do the same. Following the Vice President Vance coordinated with Qatar's Prime Minister on the details. This effort proved successful, and following discussion with the Qatari PM and the Iranians agreed. The deal was coordinated at the highest level by the president and vice president and the Qatari emir and prime minister directly. Despite having been attacked just hours earlier, the Qataris set aside their grievances and prioritized regional security to get the deal done, the diplomat added. Iran did not get regime change by the collective West and Israel. They won easy. No, they didn't. They did not win. This is not a W for Iran. Okay? I mean, Israel, it's an L for Israel, but it's not a W for Iran. Please. Israel literally came in amidst negotiations with the West, showed that they had the capacity to actually fucking manipulate Western nations and even the United States of America and bring them onto the cause, assassinated a fuck ton of IRGC commanders, and established air superiority over key parts of Iran in the process, kept bombing Iran in the fucking process. No, it's not a massive fucking W for, it's not a W for Iran at all. Yes, they avoided regime change for now. They avoided becoming a failed state for now. That doesn't mean that this ended. So Vietnam lost against the U.S.? No, Vietnam did not lose against the United States because Vietnam was able to literally stop the U.S. forces and become a singular state again. A state led by the Vietnamese. Iran and the regime change ambitions have not actually fucking stopped. Defender always wins when they stop aggressor. No, because the aggressor has not stopped is what I'm saying. Do you think Israel is done? You think Israel is like, all right, I guess we just took this L, it's over? No, of course not. That's why I'm saying it's more so a spectacular defeat for Israel as opposed to a major victory for Iran. Seeing more reports on this, seems they definitely assassinated someone. Reports of possible assassination strike in Tehran. Yeah, we haven't even made damage assessments on what this last round of Israeli fucking missile strikes look like either. So there's also that. Initial reports of a targeted assassination strike against a senior official of the Iranian capital of Tehran. God damn it, it's not even fucking... Killed the negotiator, bet you anything? I can see that. Does Iran win in showcasing Americans' barbarism? Obviously, America's always been barbaric, but on a world stage, no. Nobody gives a shit. every world leader, I mean, just like China was not able to, I think, successfully show to the Western leaders that America is a unreliable ally and unfit to lead global trade in the tariffs back and forth, even though they had a lot more power to do so than Iran. I don't think that Iran showing restraint and their interest in diplomacy does anything to leadership of the Western world. They all fucking despise Iran. They also, I think, have drafted a withdrawal. Iran, I think, drafted a withdrawal from leaving the International Atomic Agency energy. So that's a fucking ginormous L for everybody, except for Iran.
U.S. interests as well in this, with those missiles launched at the U.S. base in Qatar hours ago. Out front now, Senator Chris Murphy of the Foreign Relations Committee. And Senator Murphy, so Trump says there's this complete and total ceasefire. We have, it seems to be, muzzling out of Israel, right? They're not talking, which would indicate, as Jeremy says, perhaps something. Explosions in Tehran, but neither side speaking. Is this ceasefire real?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, what we know is that Donald Trump doesn't tell the truth a lot, so you can't rely on Donald Trump's statements. And frankly, you can't rely on what Iran says either. Remember, Iran may agree that it's not going to launch direct attacks against Israel or the United States, but Iran traditionally exercises power, lethal power, through its proxies. Its proxies inside Lebanon, its proxies inside Iraq. And so this is still going to be a very dangerous moment. Let's hope that this is a ceasefire that is real. Let's hope that this is an end, at least temporarily, to the hostilities. But let's also understand that Iran has agreed to a lot of things over the years because of the way in which it uses these terrorist groups, which are spread out all across the region, that are very close to U.S. forces. Anything official out of Tehran probably isn't worth, much more than the paper that it's written on.
Well, I mean, of course, you're also in the context of, we understand the Ayatollah is in a bunker because Netanyahu said he could take him out at any time, and Trump has talked about regime change. So does that mean that that's all over? Regime change is off the table? I mean, I'm only saying this in the context of some things are impossible to put back in the bottle. Sometimes when people show you who they are, they've shown you who they are. And it seems that we have passed such.
Yeah, I think this assessment from Seamus is not entirely correct. The reason why I say this is because Iran does not have the smoke. They've shown that time and time again. They do not want further war. They do not want more bombing campaigns in Tehran, no matter what. That's it. As I said from the start, that any fucking off-ramp that America gives to Iran, Iran will take. And they did. Any off-ramp.
Range, this might get worse for the United States, not better. So, we still don't even have all the facts to know how impactful this strike was, but it certainly is going to alter the calculus of the Iranian regime.
All right, and of course the ceasefire is a pause to, I mean, we hear obviously leveled in the Ukraine war all the time, would be a pause to rebuild. But to your point about this enrichment, the Vice President, J.D. Vance.
Iran has been 100% within their rights under international law. Oh, 100%. Yeah, Chris Murphy is fucking out of his mind for stating this. It's just a complete distortion of the truth.
Highly enriched uranium is located, right? I mean, do they know they destroyed it? Do they even know where it is, right? Here's how he answered the question.
I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons-grade level?
Threat
our goal
near
was
the
to
White
bury
House?
the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon.
So, Senator, he very clearly did not say that he knew where the uranium was, which would mean that obviously that would flow from there to not know how much there was or its state. Do you think that we know what we need to know here?
Okay, the old man is doing the rounds on the media again. He's calling the journalists again. President Trump spoke to me about the ceasefire deal in an exclusive interview. He said, "It's a great day for America. It's a great day for the Middle East. I'm very happy to have been able to get the job done. A lot of people were dying, and it was only going to get worse." When asked how long the ceasefire would be, President Trump said, "I think the ceasefire is unlimited. It's going to go forever." When asked if the war was completely over, he said, yes, I don't believe they will ever be shooting at each other again. President Trump also said that of the conflict with Iran, it would have brought the whole Middle East down. He added this about the ceasefire deal is a wonderful day for the world, in my opinion. Okay, I need to make something clear here. Here was a really cool way that Trump could have avoided all of this. Telling Israel not to strike Iran. Because we have only, at best, set the time frame back. Yeah, frame drops, I know. We have only set the time frame back to 12 days ago, and there's been a lot in those 12 days that's bad for both Iran and Israel. So, this is not a W. Why are people... Who the fuck would look at this and go, that's cool, this is actually dope? Unless somehow this also, through back channels, is telling Israel to just cut it out with fucking Gaza or some shit, which I heavily doubt. There was no W here at all. Trump allowed this event to unfold. He created chaos. People were like, this is the worst type of chaos. What the fuck are you doing? And then 12 days later, he was like, all right, chaos over. Look, I saved it. It's like, but you started it. You let the chaos happen. You fucking let the chaos happen for 12 days only to turn around and I guess like stop even more chaos from taking place? Like, how is this a W? This is the same principle behind the fucking tariff stuff. Like, this is the same shit. Oh, I'm going to do maximum tariffs. Okay, I'm not going to do maximum tariffs. Oh, you're fucking brilliant, sir. Thank you so much. How many more times does this have to happen? The only way I see this, the only way I what I feel like took place is Israel's air defenses are diminished, and we'll see. If Iran actually retaliates in this last barrage of missiles, we'll see how much the Israeli air defenses are diminished. Okay? But if the only thing I can foresee happening here is that Israel's air defenses were so diminished, and America did not have appetite for further war with Iran, and therefore, I guess they had to cool off a little bit before they could re-up on their air defenses, and then Israel will most likely try it again. What does this mean? Israel told the U.S., first we strike. Only after a victory can the right agreement follow. That was the IDF's approach with Hezbollah and Lebanon, and now again with Iran. It appears to have worked for the second time. What? Is it all just fake news to distract people from the fact that ISIS is deporting people? No. That's secondary. That has nothing... The distraction stuff is so silly because, like, this is a severe escalation. Like, World War III cannot be a distraction from ICE deportations. You know what I mean? And now there's several large explosions being reported in Taji, north of Baghdad. Radar equipment in the U.S. base in Taji camp were destroyed with drones. No, it's not a false flag. Guys, the ceasefire hasn't been finalized yet. Iran still has Iran still has like 4.5 hours to retaliate against Israel, and this is Iraq anyway. Israel's Channel 12 reports that Prime Minister Netanyahu instructed ministers at the end of a 4-hour cabinet meeting not to comment on the latest developments until further notice. Aren't you proud of our country? You live here, dude. And Iran was gearing up to build nukes, and their government hates America. What more do you need? No, I'm not proud of my country. Why would I be proud of my country? These past 12 days were not a moment of pride. It was a shameful experience. More than 600 Iranians, until this last batch of bombings took place, more than 600 Iranians were killed, thousands injured. On the Israel side, 25 plus Israelis were killed, hundreds injured. Some of them were, having panic attacks, which the Israeli government considers an injury. And none of that had to happen at all, because what you think was Iran gearing up to build nukes was just a lie that you decided to believe. They did not. If anything, they might now. They probably won't, because they are, like I said, restrained to a fault. But they weren't before. As a panic attack haver, do not be ableist. I'm sorry. You cannot fucking consider war casualties. You cannot add panic attacks into the number of casualties of war. Okay? Yeah, it's really fucked up. When bombs are flying overhead, you're going to have a panic attack. Many people will. That's insane. That's an insane way to do stat padding. There's like children whose legs are chopped off or stuck under the rubble and will never be the same again. And you're adding fucking someone having a panic attack into that number, because that's what a casualty is. Casualty numbers are like, people that have been severely, gravely injured, almost, they didn't die, but they almost died. Are you saying that Iran had no intention of obtaining a nuclear bomb? Iran has imperialist agendas too. I don't care if Iran has imperialist agendas or not. There is no intelligence that shows that Iran was on the verge of making a nuclear weapon. There's none. It's just made up. And they didn't even do a good job making it up. So I don't understand where you're coming from. Like, this is what's so frustrating about this process, is that it's not like the American government even had like a Colin Powell moment. Like, they didn't even like go on the national stage with like a trustworthy individual and go to the UN and be like, we have serious information that they have fucking nukes or anything like that. They just basically were like, yeah, Israel told us they have nukes. We believe them. That's it. That's it. Like, they didn't even try hard, and motherfuckers are still believing in it. That's what's so crazy about it. Marco Rubio literally on national television said, it doesn't matter if Iran is making nukes or not. No, it does matter. That's the most important part of this. Reports are now suggesting that surface-to-air missile launcher and radar site were targeted and are now burning at Camp Taji on the north of the Iraqi capital of Baghdad. Is this the America-hating Twitch stream? No. This is the actual America-loving Twitch stream. I want America to do better. I want America to do better for you, dumb fuck. Like, I'm doing all right. If anything, I want America to do right by you. And it's so weird to me that motherfuckers that are having a tough go at it are just like sitting around posturing angrily and going, no, you don't understand. I don't deserve healthcare. I'm a cuck. I don't deserve healthcare. Every dollar should go to Israel. Like, what is this? Like, do you have no dignity? Do you have no interest? Do you have no self-preservation skills? I don't get it. Why are you yelling at me? It makes no sense. What is this? Iran's Ayatollah reportedly in a bunker refuses to surrender?
He is currently the head of the judiciary. He's been very aligned with the IRGC for a number of years, so he's very conservative.
What is happening on CNN?
Kind of viewed as the security candidate. He's 68 years old. And the third is Mohsen Iraqi. He's a former religious advisor to the supreme leader. He would be viewed as kind of a traditionalist candidate and really putting more emphasis on the religious legitimacy of the regime. I think it's important to appreciate that all of these gentlemen are about my age. They're in their 60s, upper 60s here, and they were all young young men, 20, 21 years old, when the revolution took place back in 1979. So they've seen this through that lens for
What is going
the
on?
bulk of their adult lives, and I think are all very much committed to the same principles that the current Supreme Leader is.
A continuation, not a change. The Ayatollah's son was once top of the list, but according to the New York Times, no longer on it. What do you think of that?
Well, I think.
What do they know that we don't know? Is this are they just like wish casting? Like what's happening?
Excluded him
Is there a
largely
coup?
because he didn't necessarily like the idea of family ruling here. So I think he kind of excluded him. You know, another candidate that was mentioned, of course, was Hassan Khomeini, who was the grandson of the founder of Ayatollah Khomeini, who was viewed as a reformist. He's much younger. He's 52. Khamenei's son is 55, so they are a little bit younger, but a little bit more of a reformist on the Khomeini there. But of course he has the name and has that the respect and everything that goes along with that.
And all just so important, though, to consider that, you never know what happens till it happens. But that is a continuation and just a sense of how deep these layers are. And General Votel, I am grateful for your time and thank you. As our breaking news coverage continues from the banks of the Strait of Hormuz, here, a crucial waterway, nearly a quarter of the world's oil travels behind me. Iran threatening as part of its intensification to shut this down. Plus new information just in on the high-stakes 18-hour U.S. mission to take out some of Iran's nuclear facilities. One complete with mid-air refuelings, a series of...
What? By the way, no other outlet is talking about this.
I know
What
it's
is
very
CNN
late
talking
there.
about?
Last time we spoke, you were saying it would be very difficult to get reaction from Iranian officials at this hour. But has anything new emerged when it comes to this announcement by Donald Trump that a ceasefire had been reached between Iran and Israel?
Yes, a new emerging development on the ground here in Tehran is more of sounds of explosion that we can hear related to the interception of flying objects by the air defense system. Also, we sensed a relatively massive explosion here at the Bureau before we start this live coverage. A few minutes ago, we just sensed the impact of explosion. But still, speaking of your question, we haven't received any confirmation about any deal being reached between Iran and the United States about a possible ceasefire that we heard from the U.S. President Donald Trump. We have to keep waiting for confirmation of whether or not Iran is going to accept that. But still, the reality on the ground, as I told you earlier, was that we've received this strong messages by the Iranian military officials saying that as long as Israeli strikes continue, and right now what we see is the continuation of these strikes, Iran is not going to stop there. Iran is going to strike back to respond to actually Israeli strikes, and now we see this continuation. So with that said, we're not sure whether Iran is going to accept any deal for ceasefire regarding this latest developments that we can see. Also, I told you earlier, we've got this statement from the Supreme Leader of the country, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a couple of days ago, who came out in a video message saying that we're not going to accept any imposed peace. And the question here is that whether Iran is going to interpret this proposal
that we allocated nearly all the B-2 bombers in existence and used more than half of our GBU-57s to strike this sovereign country on behalf of the genocidal apartheid shows how far we've come in acting like their proxy. No, you don't understand. It was a big W because we don't even know if it actually successfully destroyed Fordow. Okay? We don't even know if they actually successfully destroyed Fordow. And also on top of that, we know for a fact that we didn't get any of the fucking enriched uranium. And, you know, great stuff. Great stuff overall. It seems like crazy how much Hassan loves Iran. No, man. This isn't about, first of all, of course, I have no fucking issue with Iran. What the fuck is your issue? What has Iran done to you? I don't want the Iranian people to die, do you? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with your fucking brain? I don't want anybody to die. Why are you seeing everything from this like incredibly narrow lens where you're like, nope, there's good and then there's bad. The Iranian government is evil. Motherfucker, we're evil. Does that mean we should get nuked? We're far more evil than fucking the Iranian government is. What do you mean? The Iranian government is evil. Why? Because they are a repressive regime, right? They're a repressive regime. They hurt their own population. Okay, so do we. And we hurt a fuck ton more people outside of our own population. Should we get fucking nuked? I don't think so. I don't want to get nuked. Well, sometimes I do, because sometimes I'm like, God damn. What is this argument? Does the U.S. hang gay people? Sometimes. They have different methods of execution, not on the basis of being gay, but yeah, we still fucking kill people all the time. What are you talking about? Oh, sorry, those people deserve it, right? Even if they're found innocent after the fact. Dumbass. We kill mentally ill people all the time. Our Supreme Court loves the facilitation of lethal execution for mentally ill people nonstop. It's like the favorite hobby of the Supreme Court. Time-honored tradition. I've been to jail during Maza administration protests, and I still don't want to be bombed. This will make the regime tighten grip. Any military action will make the life of Iranian civilians worse. Only a diplomatic and civil solution is viable. Iranian chatter and longtime Hassan Abi head here. I want to live and watch Hassan Abi broadcasts every day. I've been to jail during the Maza administration protests, and I still don't want to be bombed. Exactly. But good luck explaining that to these dumb fuck Americans that are baying for blood. They can't comprehend that. They can't be like, oh, but the Iranian people don't like their fucking government, and their government is acting in a way that is not in accordance with the best interests of the citizens. Okay, let's bomb them. Is the most idiotic argument, but it's the only argument for Americans. They're so disgusting. Some Americans are. You know? It's fucking ridiculous. If anything, civil struggle becomes impossible when the population is too worried about getting fucking bombed by a foreign entity. A foreign entity that they've watched ethnically cleanse the entire population of Gaza. Like, what are we talking about? Can't wait to liberate the Iranian women from the treacherous grip of the Islamic Republic by assassinating them, by blowing up their homes, by killing their children. This is going to liberate them big time. I can't believe that we are living in the ashes of the failure that was the war on terror, and there are still Americans who fucking eat this propaganda completely. They just go, no, that's the only way to do it. It's not just the Americans, the Pahlavis Iranian diaspora are also asking for the same thing. It doesn't matter. They're fucking, they serve no purpose other than chirp. It's idiotic. Okay, so do the fucking Cubans that want Cuba to be bombed. So do Miami Cubans. They chirp up about how little we've bombed Cuba on a fucking yearly basis. Does that mean we should bomb Cuba? No.
Day as well, there were Israeli officials saying that because of the pressure from President Trump, the Israelis were now trying to wrap all of this up by the end of the week. This is before the announcement from the American president. So it's still a little bit unclear where we stand now because there has been no word from Israeli officials.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Hamda Zahoud joining us live from Amman in Jordan. Thanks so much, Hamda. Joining us live now from Washington, D.C. is National...
Don't fucking lose it. Trump called his favorite Israeli agent, Barak Ravid. President Trump just told me in a phone call, this is the end of the war. This is a great and wonderful thing for Israel and the world. Someone should inform the fucking Iranian citizens in Tehran that are currently experiencing explosions. Hey, guys, you've been liberated. We don't like the administration, but getting bombed from the fucking genocidal regime, hell no. Good luck. Like I'm saying, there are a fuck ton of Iranians in here. I mean, obviously I hear you. I'm trying to explain to Americans who will never listen that it is insane that this idea that like bombing Iran is going to allow the Iranians to feel liberty once again is the same exact dumb fuck bullshit that we said in Iraq. It's the same thing that we said in Afghanistan, same thing we said in Iraq. It's the same thing Israel said in Gaza. It's so stupid, but it doesn't matter. It's a lie, but it doesn't even fucking matter, okay? Because That's just a lie for like the dumbest people to repeat over and over again. I don't think anybody like serious believes that shit. I don't even think this is a fell for it again award, honestly. If you were willing to entertain this idea that the people feel safer when they're being bombed by a foreign entity, then you're the most easily tricked adult of all time. Didn't bomb civilians, strategical strike on nuclear facilities that intend to create overall hurt, multiple countries, USA being number one? No, it's not. That's not true. There's another lie that you just believed for no reason. That's the WMD lie. Just like Saddam had WMDs and he was willing to use it on America is the lie that the American government told to invade Iraq. That is also a lie. Okay? It was not a fucking strategical strike on nuclear facilities. First of all, that in and of itself is already a war crime. I like that we have decided that fucking nuclear power plants and nuclear facilities are just now open targets. What do you think would have happened if the United States actually successfully blew up a nuclear facility? Do you think the civilians would be happy with the fucking radiation poisoning? And also, more than 600 Iranians were killed in the process. So clearly, it was the idea that they weren't targeting civilians is also bullshit. Do you remember when Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant was under bombardment in the Ukraine-Russian war and how the media was panicking rightfully, all while blaming Russia for playing with fire? Exactly. I do remember. So what was the point of the strike again? I'm confused. Okay, good. If you're asking this question with sincerity, then that's good. This is the first step towards having a healthy dose of skepticism towards this current administration, which you should apply to every administration regardless. Okay? Great. Iran did not have nukes. Our own intelligence showed that Iran did not have nukes and did not have the capacity to develop nukes. Okay? That's our own intelligence community's assessment. The only people that were saying Iran is about to get a nuke tomorrow, any day now, was Israel. They've been saying that. The same guy, Benjamin Netanyahu, has been saying that since 1992, for the record. And I think everyone knows at this point that when Israel is saying something, it's most likely a lie. Okay? So what was the point of this strike? The point of this strike was basically to entertain our most valuable ally, Israel's genocidal ambitions. That was the only point. Israel wanted regime change in Iran. They started this amidst a denuclearization negotiation that Iran was conducting with the United States of America. They started this under the cover, the protective cover of said denuclearization agreement. Okay? Israel did this specifically for regime change. The nukes, the fake nukes lie was the casus belli. It was bullshit. Nobody really believed it, but it didn't really matter ultimately. The entire point of the strike was so that we were playing ball with Israel. We were playing ball with Israel and showing them that we are willing and able to also strike Iran and maybe even go to war with Iran at the behest of Israel. Okay? But the Iranian retaliation was also significantly limited against the American bases. And in the aftermath of the Iranian retaliation and its limitations, the American government came back and apparently put together this ceasefire, told Israel to stand down, which they will in a couple hours, and told Iran to stand down, which I suspect they took gladly. So now that the ceasefire has been implemented, there was no real fucking goal here. It was just complete idiocy, complete madness, and bloodshed for no fucking reason. Welcome to the Trump administration. He does this all the fucking time. I think we're far from done with Iran. I think the strike was testing the waters on a domestic acceptance. Israel will kill the ceasefire. Something will trigger another start of the conflict. I agree. I don't think Israel is happy about this quote-unquote ceasefire. Reuters White House correspondent says, Trump brokered ceasefire in a call with Netanyahu Monday afternoon while VP Marco Rubio, Israel agreed. Wait, what? Israel agreed to it so long as Iran did not launch further attacks. Iran signaled to the U.S. that no more attacks would take place, the official said. So Iran is eating it. Israel's going to continue bombing Iran and Iran's just going to eat it? That is insane. If the Iranian leadership actually said yes to this, they might as well have signed off on their own death warrant. Gotcha. Well, it's always good to hear two sides of the story. Understand and could believe your point of view. I mean, my point of view isn't just like, my point of view is just describing the events that took place. Nothing I said is like even embellished a little bit. Yeah, we saw this image. Witnesses claim that 3 projectiles struck a civilian building on Ferdowsi Street. According to initial reports, the target was an Iranian nuclear scientist. Israel just carried out another assassination attempt in Tehran. I think agreeing to this, agreeing to be bombed by Israel without any sort of retaliation in an effort to bring forward a ceasefire is the weakest moment of the Iranian regime. If Israeli strikes continue after 3:30 Tel Aviv time, Iran will consider the ceasefire as voided. Source France 24. Okay. Don't forget about the CNN Ayatollah bunker story. I think if it's true, it paints a picture of how such a deal could have been reached. It doesn't make sense because Trump's statement said when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions. This is, again, a pretty weak response anyway from the Iranian side. When is 3:30 Tel Aviv time? Is it like half an hour from now? It's much later, no? Let me see. Yeah, half an hour from now, literally. In the next 30 minutes.
30 a.m. in Tehran. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom with extended coverage of the latest escalation in the Middle East. In the last 2 hours, President Donald Trump has announced what he says is a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Iran. He's congratulated both countries for agreeing to a complete and total end to hostilities. He says the ceasefire will take effect in stages over 24 hours. Neither Israel nor Iran have confirmed that they have agreed to this. Here's what President Trump wrote. Congratulations, everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and...
Bro, the fact that Israel is not saying anything and has told, Benjamin Netanyahu has told his cabinet to not reveal any information on this potential ceasefire, and the fact that Israel is bombing Tehran with great intensity at the moment, I'm still confused as to whether or not this is like a real ceasefire or not. Regular flights from China have resumed to Tehran. They're landing in 40 minutes. Who do you trust for your sources? Like, people are saying random things. I'll know when I see it. I don't think it's fake, but we'll see.
End what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't. We'll be unpacking the latest developments shortly with our correspondent.
Bro, there's something very strange happening. Why do you want the war to go on? I don't. There's something very strange happening in Iran. I don't know. I don't know what's actually happening. There's something very, very strange about this entire
Regime
process.
change might be possible in Iran. In the past few hours, he has these posts on Truth Social saying, God bless Iran. What else have you been hearing? And have any other concrete details emerged?
Well, Donald Trump just gave a phone interview, the first time he's spoken publicly since announcing what he says is a ceasefire deal. He spoke with NBC News saying that it was a wonderful day for the world. And then when asked just how long he believes the ceasefire will be, Trump answered that he thinks the ceasefire is unlimited, that it's going to go forever. Certainly a very jubilant tone to not only what he said in this interview, but also the post, which you just read, that he announced on Truth Social about 2 hours ago. And we're also getting some more reporting from Reuters and from other sources that it wasn't just Trump who...
This is OSINT Defender. I mean, they're unreliable. I'm starting to think that Khamenei is either dead or there has been some kind of coup with the Iranian armed forces, because that is the only way these statements are being made by Trump, Vance, and other officials within the last hour make any sense. Yeah, there's something very, I think there's something very strange happening in Iran, and I don't know what it is. Because this ceasefire doesn't make any sense, because Israel's aims have not been met here at all. So either Trump put the fucking halt on Israel, or something else is happening behind the scenes that we will find out soon. But Benjamin Netanyahu's marked silence on this, the continued heavy bombing campaign in Tehran. Israel's preparing for the possibility that Iran will fire heavy missile barrages before the ceasefire goes into effect, per Channel 12's Yaron Avraham. Israel prepares for the possibility of a relatively heavy barrages in the final hours before a ceasefire. I mean, that's what I suspected as well, but it's weird that they're being like oddly quiet. Shot coup? No fucking shot. Could you go over what's strange about this? I mean, everything is strange about this. Trump fucking comes out and says there's a ceasefire. Iranian officials first say there is no ceasefire. Then the ceasefire is only confirmed through Qatar. They say this was a high-level ceasefire that was conducted. The ceasefire also has like weird provisions in it. Like Israel can still undisturbed bomb Tehran over and over again with no retaliation from Iran whatsoever. Trump says the ceasefire will be permanent, which is also incredibly suspicious. No statements from any high-ranking officials on the no statements from any high-ranking officials from like the Ayatollah or any of the usual parties that would seemingly talk in this process. I don't know.
Perhaps it would have been prior to this ceasefire announcement, but I will tell you that across the board in these few hours since he made this announcement, there has been a lot of praise for Trump. We heard from the U.S. House Speaker.
An American military base had an explosion on their radar site in Baghdad.
Trump deserves all the credit that this is what, quote, peace through strength looks like, and that it's really a big sigh of relief on Capitol Hill. We've seen Republicans who were all just about to submit a resolution that was, in a sense, chastising Trump for going forward with those military strikes on Iran without consulting Congress first. Now the sponsor of that saying that he was going to withdraw it, now that if there is a ceasefire, that the point would be moot. And we're seeing, Trump's MAGA followers also praising this action.
Yeah. Trump's MAGA followers are stupid. Who cares? Baghdad Operations Commander Lieutenant General Walid al-Tamimi has now confirmed that an unknown drone targeted an air defense and radar site at Camp Taji to the north of the capital earlier, resulting in significant damage to the site, but no casualties among the Iraqi armed forces. That's weird too. From the outset, Israel's aims were unmistakable. Torpedo U.S.-Iran diplomacy, drag Washington in the conflict, take out Iran's nuclear and missile programs, trigger regime change. If the ceasefire Trump just announced holds and is paired with a serious U.S.-Iran diplomacy, it would mark a strategic defeat for Israel in launching this war. Netanyahu took a shot, a desperate Hail Mary, and none of it has worked up until now. Fort Out was evacuated. The site may very well be intact. And in any case, Iran's enriched uranium stockpile and advanced centrifuges are now hidden with a stronger covert breakout ability than ever. The Iranian public has rallied in defense of the country and against foreign aggression. If the government channels this unity into a new social contract, it could be transformative. If not, the old polarization may return. Meanwhile, Iran has hit Israel hard over the last 12 days. Tel Aviv, Haifa, the north, south, and other cities have seen major destruction. Military and intelligence sites damaged. Energy and research infrastructure hit. Israel's vaunted air defenses failed the test. Its reliance on the U.S. has never been clearer. Netanyahu saw the cost of war of attrition and blinked. But for Iran, can any ceasefire be trusted? Unless it's tied to credible U.S. diplomacy, not maximalist demands, and unless Israel halts covert attacks and assassinations and continued airstrikes, a la Lebanon and Syria, this truce will likely collapse. Trump helped create this mess by enabling Netanyahu. If he truly wants to stop the region from being destroyed, as he just said, he'll have to restrain Netanyahu and force a ceasefire in Gaza too. Lasting peace is impossible until Netanyahu and his war-first approach is gone for good. Yeah, none of that's going to happen. I don't think Israel's stopping any of that shit. Remember, Netanyahu explicitly said Israel's military operation in Iran could continue for as long as it takes to eliminate what he called the existential threat of Iran's nuclear program and arsenal of ballistic missiles. That hasn't happened. Far from it. As The Economist noted, Israel wanted at least 2 weeks to destroy Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities. It achieved neither. Without regime change or capitulation, the war makes sense only if it can set back Iran's nuclear program by years, and it hasn't. I don't think this. I think this was a tremendous, tremendous defeat for Israel, regardless of the fact that they were able to assassinate hundreds of IRGC leaders and nuclear scientists. Okay, I do not think that I do not think that Benjamin Netanyahu got his ambitions out of this. A second explosion in the Iraqi army? What? What the fuck's going on in Iraq, bro? Yeah, I already covered this. A source told France 24's English that if Israeli strikes continue past 3:30 a.m. Tel Aviv time, just 23 minutes away, Iran will consider the ceasefire null and void. Unconfirmed reports of explosions at Camp Victory at Baghdad International Airport. Hundreds of leaders? Yes. By Iranian estimations, you were saying an hour ago that this was a big L for Iran. It is. It is still a fucking ginormous L for Iran. It is just simply also a ginormous L for Israel. Iran did not achieve a significant victory here because it did not actually establish deterrence. It was not able to defend its military commanders. It was not able to defend its boundaries, its borders. Iran got attacked by the United States of America and Israel. I think anyone that says this was a giant victory for Iran is coping because they don't realize that, like, Israel was able to maintain air superiority over Iranian airspace for extended periods of time. And if you think that they're not going to do this one more time once they re-up and rearm on their anti-air defenses, you're silly. The only major setback for Israel here is that they weren't able to get it done this time. What if Iran's lying crazy mode and at 3:31 they just randomly launch a nuke? That's not going to happen. If I were to measure the successes of Iran, I would say this much. Restrained or not, it doesn't matter. They were able to successfully continue a war of attrition with ballistic missiles alone, and were able to wither away and deplete and exhaust the limited resources of Israel's air defenses. Tel Aviv and the rest of Israel proper is no longer seen as this island that is an impenetrable fortress. Israel's public will always now suffer potential repercussions. They will know that if Israel decides to behave in the ways that it has, at least against Iran, that there are still severe penalties. Israel only gets to behave in the violent ways that it does because it has created this assurance for its population that we do as much violence as possible, but you don't experience it. You can do, like, gay liberal laptop work or whatever the fuck and drink kombuchas and matcha in the morning while there is a unlimited genocide happening like 50 miles away. You get to do that. You get to live like a Western style life in the middle of this region because you're defended by unlimited amounts of air defense support from the United States of America. Yes, exactly like America. Exactly like America. The only difference is America is all the way over fucking here, and Israel is in the ass cheeks of a bunch of countries that have long-range ballistic missiles that can clearly penetrate the Iron Dome and the Arrow defense system and the David Sling and the THAAD and the fucking cruisers that are like literally planted next door to Israel so that they can constantly fucking try to intercept these missiles that are coming in Israel's direction. You can't be doing, gay laptop work while you're doing a genocide. It just can't happen. It can't happen in perpetuity. I do think this, Yes, I agree with this. Very possible that Israel wants a ceasefire because it's running low on interceptors. Reports days ago suggested they were running low and that system is already overwhelmed. Strikes have clearly been getting through. Might be a temporary ploy to restock and resume the war. That's what I think as well. The internet says otherwise? What do you mean? What is the internet saying? There's 14 minutes remaining. 14 minutes remaining until the ceasefire deadline is passed. Iran has already stated that they are going to strike or the ceasefire is void if they go beyond the point, and Israel hasn't stopped striking. Apparently, heavy airstrikes are continuing against Western Tehran still. Now, the other side of this, of course, is that Iran has no fucking launches that have taken place so far. Iran has not launched any counterstrikes in retaliation, even though they signaled that they would. That's also interesting. I don't know what the fuck they're planning. I also don't know what's going on in Iraq. Apparently, there's explosions happening in Iraq. There are initial reports of casualties at the Baghdad International Airport that was struck. Explosions reported near Baghdad International Airport and the Balad airbase. Initial reports of casualties at Baghdad International. The source of the fire is currently unknown. The idea of a buzzer beater ceasefire missiles is crazy. It's not unique. Israel always does that. What's unique is Israel is doing this to a country that has the capability of fucking striking back for once. When Israel did this to Lebanon, Lebanon had no capacity to fucking penetrate the Iron Dome as successfully as Iran had. Yeah. Trump announced it too early. 1, there is a ceasefire. 2, Trump was supposed to announce it later and surprise with an early announcement. 3, Israel received guarantees that Iran would not return to developing nuclear weapons. Here's the thing. Israel has a million different things that they can claim to restart this bombing campaign. Okay? There's a million different things that they can do. They can say, we have good authority. We figured out where the enriched uranium is hiding. Or they can still say, we have to take out their ballistic missile launchers. Or they could just go for the big prize and claim that, we got to take out the Ayatollah. So the only reason why this is currently happening is because Israel, I think, doesn't have the capability of withstanding further fucking missiles being lobbed in its direction from Iran. So now you're pissed we have peace? No, I'm pissed because I foresee this peace not being real peace. Is that really hard to fucking comprehend? I want it to be real peace. I mean, practically peace is great. Yeah, I agree. Open Flight Radar 2 planes are landing in Iran from China. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that means. What? Brother, what are the chances Iran will attack American bases in Germany? I live here, so I'm asking. I'm really scared. What do you think, brother? Aslan. Korkma sen, tamam mı? Korkma kardeş. Sana bir şey olmaz. Bir baklava yersin geçer, tamam mı? There was a rumor based on flight data that China sent a number of large military cargo planes to Iran. Bir baklava yeriz geçer kardeş. Bebek gibisin orada sen Almanya'da, boş ver. Tucker Carlson says, thank God. Wuhan judicial coup swan. Thank God I was wrong. Fixed it. Thank Trump, you mean. Can't wait to see the podcast of you apologizing. Can Tucker and Trump be friends again? Whoever said about the planes flying into Iran, those are Iranian passenger planes returning home. I don't know anything about the fucking planes. I don't look at flight radar. What? Probability of Russia and China to give Iran a nuke to establish true deterrence? Very, very low. Following Iran's retaliatory strikes on the U.S. Air Force Base in Doha, Trump called the Emir of Qatar and told him he could get Israel to agree to a ceasefire and asked for his help getting Iran to commit to a deal. The Prime Minister of Qatar, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, then coordinated with Vice President J.D. Vance on the U.S. proposed ceasefire, and the Prime Minister spoke with the Iranians to seal the deal, the source said. Israel agreed to the ceasefire deal on the condition that Iran stop attacking their country, a senior White House official told CNN. Iran agreed to those terms, the source said. During the negotiations, Trump directly communicated with Netanyahu. Dude. Dude. I'm almost certain this is the Israeli air defenses. I have no idea what's going on. I'm going to be real with you all. I am also here now. Yeah, this is before we even factor in the lack of response or the confusing responses that we have heard from the Iranian side. Yeah, another Iranian nuclear scientist was reportedly eliminated tonight in Tehran by a precision strike from the Israeli Air Force. Yeah, 7 more minutes. 7 more minutes. Once Israeli interceptors are stockpiled again, it will continue. That's what I think too. We already covered this morning. Yeah. Iranian Parliament Committee approves general plan to suspend cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. I think Iran plans to launch a barrage last minute and want time announcements with the barrage. Want the time announcements with the barrage? No. I think Iran is currently under heavy bombardment, so it's making it probably very difficult to launch any sort of barrage. They would have done that already. There's 7 minutes left. Iran's Noor News reports that tonight's explosion in Tehran and Karaj were the largest seen in the past 12 days. Did you see this unhinged post by Trump this morning about the nukes? Oh, about Russia? Yeah, he threatened Russia a little bit too. 5 minutes remaining. Tehran Times? I don't know what Tehran Times is. Straight truth. Tehran Times, straight truth. Why is everyone saying Israel can restock interceptors but failing to acknowledge that Iran can also get to rebuild a lot more ballistic missiles? Because Israel is a belligerent nation, and also they probably did strike a bunch of fucking ballistic missile factories. Tehran Times is a state-owned newspaper. Is the English language newspaper of the Iranian government? It's owned by Mayor? Okay. I think there is instability. Okay. Judging by what the state media is saying, there might be some weird fissures in the Iranian government right now. Maybe power struggle between the IRGC and the Ayatollah. I don't know. We have no way of knowing. We shall see what happens. 4 minutes remaining until the ceasefire is established. 4 minutes. The same senior diplomatic source that confirmed that, to France 24 that if Israel continues after that the ceasefire was implemented, is also the person that said if Israeli strikes continue after 3:30 Tel Aviv time, Iran will consider the ceasefire as voided. 3 minutes remaining until ceasefire. Israel's also, of course, pummeling Gaza. Can you just bring the Ayatollah on stream and ask him what's up? Yeah. Do we have live cams in Tehran or no? And before Israel launched the missile just before the deadline, but it lands perfectly after the deadline, but they still say it counts? Two minutes. No internet in Iran still? We have. I'm watching with you. One minute. Israeli Air Force is continuing to carry out strikes across Tehran and western Iran. I mean, I don't know. What? Okay, stop. All right, it's time. Let's see what this means. Iranian Fars News reports that informed sources denied Trump's ceasefire claim. Speaking of Fars News, the source stated that the ceasefire proposal announced by U.S. President Donald Trump is completely false and was intended to distract from the recent humiliation the United States suffered. Oh yeah, they were so humiliated. The source added that Iran has not received any official or unofficial. This doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. Who are they talking to, bro? Who are they fucking talking to? I don't understand. Yeah, first real response to the ceasefire rumors within the Iranian media, an informed source tells IRGC Associated Fars News that ceasefire news is completely false, no proposal has been seen, and that Iran will demonstrate the falsehood of said plan in the coming hours. This is some real fucking ominous shit, dude. What are they? Yeah, did the American government get fucking catfished or something? Did someone go? Someone intercepted the talks and was like, "I am Persian, Mr. President Trump. President Trump, I want a ceasefire. We want the Shah to run Iran. Mr. President, I am eating kubide in Tehran. I will wear bikini, Mr. President." Like, what happened? I am Ayatollah Khamenei, Mr. President. Israel agreed to ceasefire on the condition that Iran stops the strikes, White House official says less than 1 minute ago. Israel agreed to the ceasefire deal while they're still bombing past the point of the ceasefire. This edging is making me feel a certain way. Like, was there a fucking coup or something? Like, what's happening? During the negotiations, U.S. President Donald Trump communicated directly, blah, blah, blah. We already covered this. There's nothing new. The outlets like Al Jazeera that are far more reliable, despite the fact that it was supposedly conducted by the fucking emir of Qatar, have been saying, we don't know if there's a real ceasefire or not. And now, the most reliable news so far coming from Fars, the ceasefire proposal put forward by U.S. President Donald Trump is completely false. No official or unofficial ceasefire proposal has been received from Iran. I don't get it. I wonder if there is like a power struggle between the IRGC and the Ayatollah. I don't know. I have no idea. And the military is still saying like no ceasefire is taking place. Israel says yes now. Israel's giving confirmation to CNN that they have agreed to the ceasefire while they're still bombing. Homefront Command states that defense policies remain unchanged. No educational activities, no gatherings, only essential businesses may operate. The public is urged to continue following official instructions. Okay, so Israel itself doesn't think that there is a fucking ceasefire happening either. Israeli Army radio citing sources, there's a possibility of rocket barrages being launched towards Israel. Iran just struck Iraq? What? No, you don't know if this is fucking Iran that did this. What are you talking about, chatter? You freaked me out. I thought there was like time to test your theory. I know shit's happening in Iraq as well. We don't know why it's happening. I feel like they just did this bullshit to be like, see, Iran is not to be trusted. They said that they wanted to implement a ceasefire, but they're not abiding by the ceasefire. We just got to pack it up. In response to this media fabrication, the Islamic Republic of Iran will soon demonstrate on the ground and in the field the falsehoods of this claim to the Zionist regime. Yeah, I think they're just like, they're going to claim that Iran is actually not abiding by the ceasefire that they never saw. But it happened so fast. I don't think people are going to fucking think that this was like, I don't think people are going to believe that Iran actually violated Trump's big, beautiful ceasefire. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, the cult will, but they're fucking stupid. And that's not enough, especially because there's no appetite. There's no appetite for fucking going to war with Iran. The Iranian who negotiated a ceasefire. Mr. President. Who the fuck did they talk to? No, what makes this weirder is Qatar, okay? Like, that gives it a point of legitimacy, a point of authority. When the emir is saying that they facilitated a ceasefire with Iran, that gives it a point of fucking legitimacy. Because, like, yeah, I can see the Americans lying, but I'd be shocked if the fucking the emir of Qatar is lying at the behest of America. Sure, they are still obviously pro-America. They have a massive American military base. U.S. Central Command is there. But even then, it's just like, that makes no sense. That also violates the sole purpose of Qatar being a mediator in these negotiations. They wouldn't just like do some fuck shit here so that America could go and do a psyop like this. No, it's not Muslim on Muslim betrayal. There are two places where these actual negotiations take place: Qatar and Oman. Okay, neither of these countries would place themselves in the crosshairs like this. Partially because they also have a financial investment in the stability of the region and have proximity to Iran that are in the crosshairs. But also, Qatar is supposed to be like the middleman for these kinds of negotiations to take place.
Under Ceasefire, who is a CIA agent, they took the engineers and scientists
it's
to the
literally,
site
if not by the minute, certainly by the hour, in terms of the events and how quickly things have transpired over the course of these past 24, 48 hours. And so to be at a point where we're talking about the terms of a ceasefire, where Israel has said this is happening, Iran has said this is happening. This is a much better place than where we were just mere hours ago when we learned of the missile attack there within Qatar. So it is moving quickly, but we're all very. I am certainly very hopeful at the moment that we are in right now, that in fact with the decisive measures that the president and his national security team have taken, that we could be in a place where Iran has a graceful exit here.
You're somebody in Washington who's, people on both sides of the aisle consider a straight shooter. You have what you believe in, and you stand by it. Sometimes it's out of favor, sometimes it's in favor with your.
Nope, she said Iran. I don't trust her.
By President Trump to order the strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, given what we have seen now as the outcome.
Well, again, I would just caution that we are all seeing things in real time. There are many questions that I think we have. Certainly, those of us in Congress are going to be seeking answers tomorrow at this classified briefing. I think that will be very, very instructive. But I think we all recognize the direction that Iran was heading with building up their nuclear capabilities was a place that was not acceptable. And so the decision to strike when the president determined so. You can do a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking here, trying to figure out, was this the right time? But it looks at this moment where the attacks, we're still going to be doing much of the damage assessment going forward, but have brought us to a place where not only are you going to see a ceasefire. But
amazing tweet of Trump in the past that works so perfectly for Trump right now. Who is negotiating for us in the Middle East? Bombs are dropping all over the place. Sleepy Joe is sleeping on a beach in California, viciously exiled by the Democrats, and Comrade Kamala is doing a campaign bus tour with Tampon Tim, her really bad VP pick. Let's not have World War III because that's where we're heading. We've also blown past the 3:30 deadline, and since then, Iranians, more Iranian news sources, more reliable Iranian news sources are saying that they never even saw a fucking ceasefire. So I don't know what the hell's going on. I know the Iranian military also said not only did they not get a fucking ceasefire, but also that they're going to show that they didn't get a ceasefire proposal even at all. So I don't really know why American news is still running off of, oh, a ceasefire happened. Isn't that great? Isn't it great that Trump, our big, beautiful president, did it again? Another ceasefire. Yeah, Iran intercepts Israeli drone over Tehran by the MERS news agency. Israeli Hermes drone destroyed in Tehran again. This is the third of the kind. Whether there's a ceasefire or not and how stably it'll last, let's set all of that aside for the moment and just appreciate how much these ghouls are losing their minds. There wasn't a regime change in Iran. The Iranian people had a window of opportunity to take back their country. They didn't take it. I am surprised, to say the least. I was rooting for them. Now with this ceasefire that Trump and Vance pushed, they are in for another mile. The Ayatollahs maintain their stronghold. It is what it is. I am sorry to say. President Trump, why won't you let my Shah become the president? What is this? Mohammed Ahwazeh? Oh, this is a journalist in Iran. Air defense has been activated at Khamenei's residence in Tehran's Pasteur neighborhood now. Oh my God. Are they doing it? Is Israel trying to fucking hit the decapitation on the way out? Knowing that it's not the way out at all? Holy fuck. Nah, ain't he in a bunker or some shit? I don't fucking know. Maybe it's a way to be like, oh, there's a ceasefire. 3 hours ago. No, dog. That's not 3 hours ago. That's literally fucking 6 minutes ago. I wouldn't assume that he's, amidst all of this, it would be really stupid if he's in his fucking house. But what if the bunker is under his house? Imagine the Ayatollah's like, oh. Imagine the Ayatollah was like, oh, these guys would never. Oh, it's a ceasefire. I believe it. Meanwhile, Tehran is exploding. And then he just leaves his bunker to go to his home. And he's eating kubide. He's like, come on, man. Can't wait to post about how women is the butterfly of the home again. Now that we have another ceasefire. After all, Americans certainly won't lie to me about this. I shouldn't be laughing. This is fucked up. They're like, let's celebrate another job well done. We brokered peace once again. He has all of the fucking leadership in the house. What's your obsession with kubide? I love kubide. It's also just like a funny. It's just a funny word to say. We say köfte. Israel has not stopped bombing, and now apparently they're literally bombing in the neighborhood that the Ayatollah's in. Kubide is kebab. That's true, sorry. Kubide is kebab. Forbes is saying Zoran is in the lead. Yes. In one of the polls that came out, Zoran has a little bit of a lead. The Emerson poll that came out today. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There's a different Shia that I'm worried about right now than Zoran. Yeah, and also reports of drone attacks near Baghdad are still incoming. I wonder, after surviving the most ferocious bombing campaign, Tehran is now witnessing a calm dawn. I'm not seeing any reports of a strike in Tehran, nor am I hearing any. Okay. Oh, that's it. That's it. 3 minutes ago, Syed Abbas Arakchi, as Iran has repeatedly made it clear, Israel launched a war on Iran, not the other way around. As of now, there is no agreement on any ceasefire or cessation of military operations. However, provided that the Israeli regime stops its illegal aggression against the Iranian people no later than 4 a.m. Tehran time, we have no intention to continue our... Oh, never mind. The final decision on the cessation of our military operations will be made later. Dude, they literally pushed it back. Oh, they pushed it back. They said 3:30. Now they're saying 4. Fake Demons is right. Oh, no, 4 a.m. in Tehran. No, actually, that was literally fucking... Never mind. 4 a.m. in Tehran is I thought the initial thing that they said was Tel Aviv time, so I got it wrong. Yes, it is already past Tehran time. They're still bombing. Wait, why the fuck did he post this now? It's already past 4 a.m. in Tehran. That's right. They're half hour apart. As of now, there's no agreement, but then he announced an agreement. Yeah, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Why are you so horny for Iran to stay in the war? I'm not. Iran to stay in the war? Iran is getting bombed right now as we speak. Like, I think the last time Iran bombed Israel was like, earlier last night. What the fuck do you mean? What are they supposed to do? Not de-escalate? Dog, what are you talking about? Iran is still in the process of being bombed. There are some Iranian officials that have stated that there's no ceasefire that was ever given to them. Syed Abbas Arakchi, which is a foreign minister, came out and said that there was no agreement on any ceasefire or cessation of military operations, except apparently there is one that they are abiding by. I'm like, you're misunderstanding my position here. I want there to be a real fucking ceasefire, like a complete ceasefire. I just don't think that Israel is going to abide by one. And the Iranian government is giving different information. But while we're having this conversation, it seems like they're bombing Ayatollah Khamenei's building, like his neighborhood. So it doesn't seem like Israel is invested in this ceasefire at all. Do you feel like this is a de-escalation from the Israeli side? How the fuck can you be a 41-month subscriber? This is going to look really good for Trump. I'm surprised you aren't seeing that. Why are you so horny for Iran to stay in the war? If you think any of the things that happened in the past 12 days looks good for Donald Trump, your calculation is fucking insane. Like, you're predisposed to thinking you also have to be operating with the notion that Iran has to be bombed. Because unless you genuinely think, as a liberal or as a Republican, that Iran must have been bombed, okay, but we don't want to go into a longer conflict, you can't look at the past 12 days and be like, this was a spectacular W, considering that there was so much endless bloodshed. We only rolled the clock back to 12 days ago if this ceasefire is real and actually implemented. I don't want Iran to stay in this war. I just don't want any more war. I want an actual long-lasting ceasefire. And you coming in here to be like, wow, this is really fucked up, dude. You want more war to happen? Why won't you just give the W to the big guy? You know? If Iran doesn't retaliate to the U.S., this will look great for Trump. I did the math on his last bombing campaign. Can't believe you showed that on streaming coming back. Unfortunately, that's not how the world works. This always hits differences. Fridays are my Mondays. What? I'm so confused by the things that you're saying. Why do you keep saying you want a ceasefire with no justice and an ongoing genocide? Would you be whining in 1942 that the Soviet Union should have had a ceasefire so Hitler could continue his Holocaust? You like the libs MLK described? No, dumbass. Do you think Iran gives a fuck about what's going on with the Palestinians? Are you kidding me? Have they brought up the Palestinians at all? Have they actually struck Israel at all for the Palestinians? No. The only time a Palestinian fucking died and Iran retaliated was because that Palestinian died in Tehran. He was assassinated in Tehran. It was a violation of Iranian sovereignty. Yeah, it'd be great if Iran was like, we're lobbing these ballistic missiles for Palestine. You should stop. You should stop fucking killing Palestinians. That would dramatically change the calculation here. Not that it fucking matters, because they also internally are making this assessment to ensure stability of the regime. And if they were to say, oh, we're bombing Israel because of Palestine, then Iranians would get mad. Then they'd be like, why the fuck are you why the fuck are you putting our lives on the line? Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's like there's aspects of this that are worse than 12 days ago, because Iran now has a righteous cause to fucking leave the International Atomic Energy Agency. What do you mean? Of course they're doing it for Palestine. I think you guys miscalculate Iran's interest in Palestinian emancipation. The reason why Iran defends the axis of resistance is still for their own benefit. That is the reason why they designed a million different red lines that were supposed to kick in the moment that Israel invaded Gaza. None of those red lines actually were implemented. Hezbollah was the only militancy in the region that actually followed through on the promise, and so did the Ansar Allah regime. Now you can say, well, they're also backed by Iran. This is true, they are. But Iran itself did not do anything, and it has the most capabilities to do something, as demonstrated by the past fucking 12 days of relentless Iranian bombing campaigns in Tel Aviv. And in the process of Israel basically bouldering through every single fucking red line commitment that they created, that the Iranian axis of resistance had created, Israel made work of every single different regional actor, slowly but surely, in the process of ethnically cleansing the Palestinians, and inevitably directed their crosshairs at Iran. That was eventually going to happen. Iran's interest in Palestinian emancipation is born out of their interest in destabilizing American and Israeli influence in the region. It's not born out of a real emancipatory goal. I think some of you have forgotten that reality. It's just they are aligned because Hamas and the Palestinian population is a destabilizing force against Israel's ambitions in the region. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who are, genuinely on board. But make no mistake, if Iran was as invested in defending the Palestinians, they would have acted in a much more aggressive manner towards Israel for the past fucking 20 months of ethnic cleansing. Iran did not even help its own direct. Iran was unable to even help Hezbollah in the process. Anytime Iran has retaliated towards Israel is when Israel attacked Iran first. Yeah, bro, sure. Since 1979, RGC's lost like 500 generals defending Palestine and South Lebanon, gives 5% of its annual military budget to Hamas, Hezbollah, yet you still call them non-emancipatory. They're literally the only altruistic state in the ME. Dude, I'm not minimizing their fucking impact. I'm not. I'm just simply telling you that there's a primary purpose for this. Also, no state is altruistic to others. Don't be ridiculous. There are reports that the bombings have stopped in Tehran, which would be consistent with some of the agreed upon deadlines stipulated in the ceasefire. Everyone I've spoken to said this was the worst night of the last 12. Yeah, I mean, it still feels like Donald Trump's early ceasefire was real, but I don't know. I said no state is altruistic. This guy said America is. Brother, What are you saying? America is the least altruistic state. The Soviet Union didn't enter the war out of altruism either. Your argument is pretty bad. Wait, what? I don't disagree with that. That is my argument. States can engage in emancipatory acts for other groups. The USSR's Cold War initiatives, you could make the argument, were not born out of a real desire to liberate people in the global south, but instead was to beef up allegiances and create a multipolar state with allies all around. The military operations of our powerful armed force to punish Israel for its aggression continued until the very last minute at 4 a.m. Together with all Iranians, I thank our brave armed forces who remained ready to defend our dear country until the last drop of blood and who responded to any attack by the enemy until the very last minute. This doesn't make sense because they said they were going to fucking show, Israel that the ceasefire is not real or whatever. Bro, spare me this anarchist Western bizo talk. Iran has lost much, much more than it has gained in these last 46 years of helping Palestine. Iran is ideologically the Islamic equivalent of Maoist China. I don't care if a Westerner can't understand this. Iran's regional interests align with the emancipatory goals of the Palestinians. Its regional interests align with the emancipatory goals of the Shia population in Lebanon. Its emancipatory interests align with, like, Iran's regional interests align with the Shia Houthi family's interest in the civil struggle, the civil war that took place in Yemen. I'm not discounting the metric ton of blood and weapons that Iran has given to all of the regional actors. But when push comes to shove and the state's interests overcome those emancipatory needs, you see the way that Iran reacts. Iran, even when it comes to their own defenses, has behaved in a manner that is so restrained that it only creates a larger permission structure to Israel to strike back and harder. Yeah, also Maoist China is not the best example as far as foreign policy goes, because there were some pretty fucking big issues with with Mao's allegiances in the region anyway. I know what you meant when you said that. Okay. I think you were thinking more Korea and less Khmer Rouge, for example. That's what I suspect. You were saying more like, look at what they did in Korea, like look at how much they helped out in Korea versus what they were doing with Pol Pot. But my point remains. All of Iran's top brass, including Arakchi, Khamenei, and every single general were young men during the Iran-Iraq War. That war was basically the Western Front of World War I. In my opinion, the Iranian leadership is reluctant to risk all-out war, especially as they know that's exactly what Israel wants. They're really in a rock and a hard place right now. Sure. Yes, I agree with that. What? Odd claim from convicted tax fraudster and generous Hasbara funder Adam Milstein. Looks like Khamenei and his deputies have been marginalized and are no longer charged in Iran. The ceasefire agreement was done with the new leadership of Iran. What? The fuck? Wait, that motherfucker follows me? Oh no. Uh-oh. That's scary. That's concerning. Something about Iranian correspondence so far simply does not add up. I don't know what it is, I don't know what's going on, but there's something that is not making sense on the Iranian side.
I'm in Israel just 3 hours from now, but it's still unclear exactly where the Israelis stand on this ceasefire agreement.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Hamda Salhoud live for us out of Amman. Thanks so much, Hamda. Adam Clements is a U.S. foreign policy analyst and former Pentagon official. He says while Israel and the U.S. say they've met their objectives in this conflict, it's unclear what state Iran's nuclear program is left in.
I think that even Iran may not know fully what its capabilities it still has. I think it's difficult to account for some of the enriched uranium that Iran had. I think it's reasonable to think that there.
Damn, Adam, we get it, bro. Jesus Christ.
Just the know-how of the scientists that were part of the program.
I read the Arakshi post.
They would still have some capacity. Of course, it's probably been set back many months. We just don't know how many months. And so I think before the past few hours, when we didn't really know if there'd be any opening for a ceasefire, we're assuming that it'll stick. But we still didn't know next steps. If perhaps what the United States did, if it caused the regime to rush more towards trying to find a nuclear weapon, at least appears now that there's an opening that, at least from the signaling we're seeing or the press reporting on the interaction with the Qataris, that Iran wants to have some type of scaling down of the conflict and wants to sustain itself for now.
Just hours before Trump's announcement of a coming ceasefire, Iran fired a salvo of missiles at a U.S. military base here in Qatar. It was an unprecedented attack on a neighboring country with which Iran has long held close relations. But Tehran says the attack was a justified response to the American strikes on its nuclear facilities. Behdad Maichi reports.
Projectiles and interceptions in the sky, this time over the Qatari capital, Doha. Shelter-in-place warnings as a barrage of Iranian missiles target the largest U.S. airbase in the Middle East, in what's being seen as a symbolic show of force. Tehran calls it legitimate self-defense and retaliation for the American bombing of its nuclear facilities on Sunday.
The message of this decisive action is clear and direct to the White House and its allies. The Islamic Republic of Iran will not leave any act of aggression against its territorial integrity, sovereignty, or national security unanswered under any circumstances.
All right, I'm going to have to be very careful. Whoa!
The airspace temporarily closed over Qatar as defenses shot down all but one of the missiles fired, the attack resulting in no injuries or deaths. But drawing condemnation from Qatar, which holds deep ties with Iran.
Qatar condemns, in the most severe words, the Iranian missile attack on the Al Udeid Qatari airbase. This attack represents a blatant violation of the sovereignty of the country of Qatar and a contradiction to the principles of good neighborliness, and represents an attack on international legitimacy and international law. And the state of Qatar confirms that it reserves the right to respond.
The sprawling Al Udeid base just outside of the capital, Doha, typically hosts some 10,000 American troops. But most personnel and aircraft were evacuated last week, the clearance visible in satellite imagery. Washington and Qatar say they were warned in advance that the attack was coming. Some suggesting it's Tehran's way of signaling it doesn't want to escalate the conflict further. Behdad Maichi, Al Jazeera.
Dorsa Jabari is also in Doha. She describes the reaction from residents here.
Multiple Iranian missiles intercepted over the skies of Doha. The residents in the city were shocked initially when this happened, and many people felt the earth shake underneath them. It did cause some panic and fear initially, but that quickly subsided once people realized what had happened, and that hopefully was the end of the attack by the Iranians on the U.S.
military base known as Al Udeid Air Base here in Qatar. This is a military base that's been here since 1996. The Qataris built it at the cost of $1 billion, and it's been home to the biggest U.S. military presence in the region. About 10,000 U.S. military personnel call this base their home. But of course, this attack came clearly with prior warnings. The Qatari government was aware that Iran was going to launch this attack. American and British embassy issued warnings to their citizens to take cover in the country, as well as the government announcing the temporary closure of its airspace over the Qatari skies. This attack clearly a message not only to the U.S. government, but also to the regional countries in the Middle East that house U.S. military bases, that Iran has the capability to attack them at any time. But clearly, choosing one of its closest allies and friends, the Iranians chose Qatar to launch this attack, which has been seen as symbolic because there has been no casualties reported and no injuries. And the Iranians have said that their target was the U.S. military base and not the state of Qatar. The Qatari government, for their part, have condemned the attack and also called for a de-escalation of the current crisis that is ongoing between Iran and Israel. Dorsa Jabari, Al Jazeera, Doha.
And Iraqi state media says an unidentified drone has targeted a site at Iraq's Taji military base. A large fire has been seen at the base just north of the capital.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened with the Iraq bases. I don't think it was Iran directly, because we would have seen it. And even if they had any sort of strike capabilities, while they're getting fucking, even if they had any striking capabilities while they were getting pummeled by Israel, I suspect that they wouldn't be using that on Iraq, but instead open presents with another 100 gifted subs. God damn, dude. Our Qatar Oilers are here. Yeah, now that things have seemingly quieted down, okay, and this was the final message. Okay, a couple things. One, I don't know what is going on the Iranian side, the Iranian leadership. There are inconsistencies in the messaging. It could be born out of like how fast this ceasefire was implemented. I do believe that the Iranian leadership would absolutely dive at the first shot of a ceasefire, though. That tracks with their track record. So I can totally see that. However, another 100 gifted subs, cinematic, goddamn. Beyond the inconsistencies on the Iranian side, as far as messaging, if we're gonna analyze like Trump, the big beautiful peacemaking president, this is yet another like tariffs are on, tariffs are off style situation. Tariffs are on, everybody panics, everybody yells at Trump. Trump scales back the tariffs. Everybody goes, oh, actually, we love that there were no tariffs to begin with. You're so great. Okay? There's also this, obviously, Yashar Ali's assessment here, saying one of the most prolific propagandists for the Islamic Republic of Iran, furious that there's been some sort of ceasefire agreement, goes off message. He attacks President and Foreign Minister of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This post has been since deleted. I don't care. Like the assessment of Yashar Ali aside, this tweet in and of itself also, I think, is more about the inconsistencies of this deal. I don't know who that fucking person is overall. I don't know why I don't understand what is happening with the Iranian side. Because they said that they wouldn't surrender. The Ayatollah's statements contradict what they ended up doing in the end. Ali Abunima says, Iran appears to have given Israel a reprieve. Israel will thank Iran by escalating its efforts to bring about the collapse and destruction of Iran's government and society. Let's hope there's more to this agreement than just quiet for now. That's what I think as well. Because I think the only reason why Israel said yes to this is because Trump showed that he didn't have more appetite for further escalations on the American side. Iranians did the thing that they always do, which is limited retaliation. But because Israel's air defenses are in tatters and significantly depleted, without America joining the conflict with a serious escalation, like straight up, actively taking an active role in the conflict, I don't think Israel's offensive campaigns were going to be enough to stop the Iranian ballistic missiles from flying into Tel Aviv. So that is the reason why, especially that, and also the fact that Israel's goal here wasn't to just take out. Israel's goal here was to take out the nuclear facilities or whatever is also bullshit. They didn't meet any of their military goals. They did not meet any of their military goals here at all. And they didn't get to do what they wanted to do, which was to do decapitation strikes and full-blown regime change. And America did not bite. They did, though. How do you know? Because there's no nukes, chatter. That's why. Because there's no nukes. Because Israel's fucking ultimate goal of nukes was bullshit. That wasn't real. That wasn't a real situation at all. They just made that up. Why would they make something like that up? Because they wanted to do regime change in Iran. The speculation part of this is not even speculation. America did not join the conflict beyond bombing the Fordow sites and the two other nuclear sites. One where they were developing. The Fordow site is where they're enriching the uranium, and the other two nuclear sites as well. That was very limited overall. We still don't know if they actually successfully destroyed these sites. But once again, Iran had already talked about how they had moved the enriched uranium away from Fordow. So the nuke part of this is a red herring. It's bullshit. It's not real. They also voted in the parliament to pull out of the International Atomic Energy. It's a red herring till someone gets nuked. We did that shit in Iraq. We got a ton of ships parked out there, man. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, okay, but if you understand we did that shit in Iraq, you understand that it was a fucking massive failure. It didn't even happen in Iran this time. Iraq is what Israel wants to do in Iran. They failed to do that this time around. The reason why they failed to do that is because they don't have the capacity to do that to Iran or any other country on their own. They can only do that if Big Daddy America joins the fight. And Big Daddy America joined the fight in a very limited fashion this time around. They did not go beyond what the most, I mean, it was still a severe escalation, make no mistake, but they didn't go past blowing up the 3 nuclear sites. In the process, Israel realized that they did not have the air defense capabilities and was more willing to back away from further escalation, which is why I assume when Iran did the exact same thing that they've done, like they did in 2020 after the Qasem Soleimani assassination, like they've done in all of the Operation True Promises so far, when they attacked in a retaliatory manner in an effort to maintain some semblance of sovereignty, in an effort to save face and get a symbolic retaliation in the books, America was fine with that de-escalation. So this ceasefire was implemented. The reason why I still say Iran lost in this, Iran lost a lot in this process is not only because they had a fuck ton of people die in the process, but they also lost any sort of sovereignty they possibly could push for because they lost their air defense capabilities, and they allowed Israel to have air superiority over numerous parts of the Iranian airspace for extended periods of time. They got attacked by America. They got attacked by Israel. They lost high-ranking IRGC members in the process. But ultimately, Israel lost more than Iran did. So I don't think that this is a victory for Iran, especially considering that I suspect Israel is going to simply re-up and rearm their air defenses, take note of the holes that exist within their anti-air defense capabilities, like they did after Operation True Promise 2. Okay? They will also be able to re-up and rearm in the process and then try this out one more time. If you think that this is done for Israel, you're wrong. I don't think Israel is done with Iran. I don't think Israel's done with Iran at all. Sufficient retaliation from Iran in this process would mean that Israel would be running to America to demand a ceasefire, to get a ceasefire done, because they were incurring too many penalties from Iran. They would be, their counterstrikes and their Air Force targets in Iran would also be diminished. But that didn't happen. Iran's retaliation, on the other hand, especially on the last day of this ceasefire just now, was incredibly diminished. They claimed that they were going to strike Iran one last time, and they never did. And they basically let Israel unload without any sort of retaliation back at Israel whatsoever. I assume the reason why Iran did that was because they just did not have the capabilities. But, like I said, the reason why I think this was also a spectacular defeat for Israel is because they got zero of their military goals accomplished. They were able to humiliate the Iranian regime, for sure, and they were able to weaken the Iranian military. But in the process, they showed everyone in the region that they were not untouchable, that they were not immune to retaliation. They were not immune to incurring penalties for Israeli society. That's it. If this were to be a significant victory for Israel, this would be continuing right now. Like what Israel is doing, the bombing campaigns would be going on. There'd be no ceasefire. America would have joined the conflict in a much more meaningful capacity. Iran would be using a significant amount of their defense capabilities and offensive capabilities on American positions. It would be devastating. There'd be far more bloodshed. But Israel doesn't give a shit. That's what their goal was. This is why I think this was humiliating for Benjamin Netanyahu as well. The amount of bloodshed that Israel was able to cause in Iran without achieving any of their specific military goals is a humiliation for Benjamin Netanyahu. That on top of the rest of the world literally either celebrating or staying quiet, watching Tel Aviv buildings get demolished by Iranian ballistic missiles, probably also doesn't feel great for Israeli society in general. Dan Cohen says, at this point, the default assumption that The default assumption must be that any ceasefire is another ploy by the U.S. and Israel to seduce Iran into lowering its guard so they can assassinate Khamenei and attempt their long-term stated goal of regime change. It would be foolish, to put it mildly, to trust Netanyahu and Trump. I agree with that. But if I can see that, and fucking random Twitter analysts can see that, I am assuming that the IRGC and the Ayatollah is also aware of this reality. A senior U.S. official said the blueprint for Monday's ceasefire agreement came from discussions with Iranian officials who made it clear to the Trump admin that they would come back to the negotiating table and discuss their nuclear program on the condition that Israel stops bombing them.
What would I say?
U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, seemingly not too happy about the ceasefire. You'll see in the upcoming hours, if not the upcoming days, who actually lost, or what kind of humiliations took place, because Israeli officials are going to start speaking. There's going to be a lot of anger and resentment and be like, what was this all for? We lost 25 of our big, beautiful citizens. We lost entire city blocks, reduced the rubble, and you couldn't even fucking take out the Ayatollah? How dare you? You know, shit like that. Let's see what Israel's greatest defender in America has to say.
So what would I say about the ceasefire? If the ceasefire is genuine and will lead to peace, it is a major league accomplishment. If the ceasefire is used to rearm and regroup by Iran, we've gone backwards. How can you determine the difference? So what would I say?
Yeah. I just don't trust the American government, and I don't trust the Israeli government at all when they say they want a ceasefire. But that's usually what happens when you fucking use the previous negotiations as cover to implement a first strike and continue a bombing campaign for 12 days straight. So who knows? What? Hassan doesn't trust America. What a shocker. Okay, close your eyes for a moment and think of yourself outside of living in the boundaries of this state, okay? You're a country that has been branded a foreign adversary of the United States of America. You go to the table, you go to the negotiation table in good faith, okay? You set up a deal. Close your eyes. You set up a deal. After this country has already implemented sanctions on you, you set a deal with them and you abide by said deal. Then elections happen. The next president comes in and immediately casts aside that deal that you put together. You still abide by the principles of the deal. Then that president adds additional sanctions in spite of you continuing the deal. And then you say, okay, well, fuck it. I'm going to start, creating nuclear silos. I'm going to start enriching uranium again. That president goes away. A more favorable, quote unquote, supposedly favorable president comes into power. Now you're thinking, oh, we can re-implement the same agreement. After all, this president was the vice president when I actually did the deal with America. That never comes, okay? All the while, the party that is like your immediate foreign adversary, the regional power, is doing everything in its power to destabilize the region and expand and keep killing all of your proxies, keep killing all of the people that you have supported, okay? You still go, fuck it. We have to do a negotiation. There's nothing we can do here. We have to do a negotiation. These are Americans. Maybe this time it will be different. You watch that same country fuck over all of the other regional proxies that you have defended in the past. You watch them cooperate with other regional adversaries in the process of fucking over your regional proxies. You say, nah, it'll be different with us. I'm sure we'll be able to get a deal done. Then they sick their attack dog on you while using the denuclearization agreement that you were implementing or that you were at the table negotiating. The attack dog strikes you in the process. And then the country that you're negotiating with also hits you. How could you ever trust this country again? how could you ever turn around and be like, well, you know, seems like these guys are definitely a normal nation state. Seems like these guys are definitely going to be dealing with us as even partners. I would literally turn around and immediately rush to China. I'd be like, listen, dog, we are a vassal state for you, okay? For your interests, for your ambitions. Use me like a weapon. That's what I would do. I'd be like, we have gotten nothing from these guys. We are no longer capable of being a friendly, cooperative partners of the West because they don't want us. They don't want us at all. I'd go to Russia. I'd go to China. I'd be like, give me the aircrafts. Give me the S-400s. Give me the Dongfeng missiles. I will strap me to the Dongfeng missiles and lob me in their direction. I am your servant. That's what I would say. If you think China would say yes, you'd be insane. I don't think so. I will buy all of the Labubus. So my point is, I don't think this is a real ceasefire. But we'll see. I don't think Israel is too happy. I don't think Israel's happy about this process at all. We shall see what they do with all of their anger and all of their resentment. Probably punish the Palestinians even more. Feels like the first Gaza ceasefire, restock on ammo, plug the holes, come back 10x harder. Today is a massive victory for American neoconservatives. They have proven America is untouchable and can bomb whoever we want with no consequences. With one attack, MAGA isolationism is dead. There's also that too. There's also that side of the equation as well. Because you're not wrong. I mean, MAGA isolationism was dead the moment that Trump decided to no longer be a fake isolationist. He was never really an isolationist anyway. Why would China or Russia openly support a religious regime that funds terrorist cells? Do you think they give a fuck? What? First of all, they already openly support a religious regime that funds terrorist cells. What are you talking about? Russia is doing terror right now. What? And China does not give a fuck, dog. What do you mean? Also, who do you think America funds? What do you think America does on the opposing side? This is such a funny approach. Thinking, like, I don't even know how you arrive at this. Like, do Americans think this way? Like, this is an American that thinks, like, Iran is the big bad. They're like a fundamentalist terrorist regime, but also they like Russia and China. Like, how did you arrive at this conclusion? You're like pro-China and pro-Russia, weirdly enough, but you're also simultaneously saying that, like, Iran is a dangerous religious terrorist regime. Like, what? Especially with Russia. Is there a fucking group of radicals that Russia hasn't funded? What are you talking about? Modern Russia. Is tricky to look good with open support? Yeah, these countries don't give a fuck about looking good to the West. Are you kidding me? They've been waging a cold and hot war with the West for the past couple decades now. Yeah, Russia funded Tim Pool, man. Okay, don't fucking send links like that, chatter. Luckily, that one didn't have TOS in it, but goddamn. Think before you link. Anyway, now, after 12 days of back and forth bombing and a severe escalation from the United States of America, we are going to hear an unlimited amount of unrestrained MAGA propaganda about how fucking brilliant the Trump administration was for doing this. Again, an act of pure aggression that reached nothing, like no goals whatsoever. And now they're just going to run around and be like, we wanted no war. And then when Trump said, no, we want more war, actually, they were like, oh, yeah, we want more war, only to turn back around and be like, see, no new war president. This is literally the exact same thing that happened with the tariffs. It's the exact same thing that happened with the tariffs. And we're stuck with these fucking madmen, okay? So get excited at the prospect of hearing the most annoying people say the dumbest shit you've ever heard. You will ask them the same question that I asked, which is, if this was, if Trump is the no war president, why did he do the war? And then you said, actually, more wars, I like it, just yesterday. Did these past 12 days, did they have to happen? Or perhaps, maybe the easiest way to avoid this was to tell Israel to stop ahead of time. Don't you think that would be the most successful way? So just remember that Trump is doing the damn thing once again, which is Trump is doing the damn thing once again, which is to break something, promise that there will be even more breakage, and then stop the bleeding halfway through, and then declare victory.
President Trump, once again, has demonstrated that he alone has the wisdom, the judgment, the strength, and the courage to see this nation through the most dangerous challenges we face around the world, Sean.
It is.
Bro, stop. Iran attacked Iraq. Check Al Jazeera. Stop. We don't know if it was Iran doing that, and you just are going crazy. We already covered it. There's no information. Who was responsible for the attack? I'll go back.
Amazing is persistence when it comes to the issue of peace. And all credit to the president for that.
Incredible. Oh, a little bit of effing. Hold on. A little bit of stuttering. Hold through the stutters. Hold. Still stuttering. CPU's at 31%. Is that bad? Memory's at 48%. Okay. Hold on. It's getting back. We're good. That was the big one. That was the big one. We're back, though. We're back. I'm sure there's a big delay. All right, delay test. Press number 5 on your keyboard if you see this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, there was a 30-second delay. There was a 30-second delay. We're back. There was a 30-second delay. All right. Fuck. Okay, we're not good. What is happening? CPU at 36%, 42%. What? This is crazy. Okay. No, that wasn't an aftershock F. We're still cooked. I'm still cooked. I don't think this is my internet. I don't think this is my internet, chat. I think it's my CPU. No, it is the CPU. Okay. In order to fix the delay, I had to refresh. I'm back. Okay, so what's going on is we suspect that there's an issue with the CPU. We're monitoring the ping to see if it's the internet, but speed to the same. I think that the CPU is like bricked. Oh, it's back. It's busted again. What the fuck? Wait, what? It's back to 27%, but it's still fucking busted. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I might. Okay, it's back again. I don't know if this will last. Every time I fix the ingest, it keeps breaking. It's back, but every time I fix the ingest, it keeps breaking. And there's a massive delay anyway. Here, hit 5 when you see this. Yeah. Oh, there's a huge delay. I'm not even counting. You think when you install the Elden Ring anti-cheat, remember your PC crash shouldn't have happened? I don't know. I mean, it's you're not even seeing where I'm at right now. You're so delayed. You're like 3 minutes delayed.
Operation as the greatest state sponsor of terrorism cannot exist. And either about the success of that strike, but the fact is, Iran cannot have a nuclear.
Dude, every time I fucking fix the ingest, every time I hit a reset and fix the ingest, it quite literally bricks again. I had to do it. There was like a fucking 2-minute delay, and I fixed the ingest. Let's see if it fucking bricks again. But basically, what ends up happening is, right now we're back. There's no delay because I just fixed the ingest, right? But every time I hit the ingest fix, it literally goes back to a fucking massive stutter for like 2 minutes. And then you guys are delayed for like 2 minutes. And I don't know what it is.